Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my Karen mother-in-law is trying to give away my RV. I'm feeling incredibly grossed out, so maybe this is hormones talking. I just gave birth a couple of weeks ago. Back in March, my husband and I bought an RV for $2,500 that needed new floors, some patchwork on the roof around the skylight windows, and some updated appliances. All summer, we worked on the RV and sunk in over $4,000. The only thing left to complete is updated appliances, but it's not a necessity. Obviously, since we had just had our baby though, that's being put on hold. But we still intended on having it completed by next summer so we could go camping and traveling around for a few months. That's why we got the RV to begin with. Now, my husband's sister, Jamie, who's 38, is having marital problems apparently, and for whatever reason, my mother-in-law thought it would be okay to tell Jamie that she could have our RV since we aren't using it anyways. We are no contact with Jamie following her running her mouth about us to the rest of the family because I refuse to watch her dog for free anymore because I was heavily pregnant and her dog is a big untrained nuisance. We haven't spoken to Jamie in at least 3 months. We went 100% no contact when we found out that she was heavily trashing our names. So why mother-in-law would give our stuff to Jamie baffles me on many levels. Therefore, when mother-in-law came here and said, "I told Jamie she could have your RV because she needs to get out of her house. We already have renovation plans for the camper," I was upset. I asked her why she would give away stuff that isn't hers and why she would think that was acceptable. She pulled the "family helps family" and "pay it forward" talk. Much to my surprise, my husband said, "Whatever, she's already told my sister she could have it, and maybe it's good karma." He was upset, but still agreed to just give it anyway. I basically told them to buzz off because I worked hard on this RV all summer while uncomfortable and pregnant, and I'll be darned if it's going to be given away to a no-contact family member right from under my nose without even asking. My husband told his mom he would bring the RV to his sisters within the week. Without doing much thinking at all, honestly, I packed up me and the baby and moved us into the RV. I'm not okay with giving away the RV, and they both know it. So I took the extreme route. My husband says I'm being overdramatic and that we can just get another RV eventually. We can't afford to buy a new one with the camping season coming up. Am I the jerk? I struggle to understand your husband here. He's a coward who clearly is scared to stand up to mommy. You've got a problem with your boundary-stomping in-laws and your husband who just lets them. Why on earth would your mother-in-law give anyone your RV, much less one you've worked on for months, and why is your husband letting her walk all over him? So family helps family, huh? What has Jamie done to help you? She's having a fit because you don't want to watch her dogs and talking smack, and you're supposed to just give her an expensive RV? I don't think so. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Your husband and his mom and his sister are, though. Who does this? Just gives away an RV that's worth thousands of dollars without asking the people who own it. I assume it's a marital asset, as you and your husband both sank in money and work into the RV. This is a red flag, especially after you gave birth, and even more so after you said no. Your husband's problem is more terrible than your in-laws, though. Why is he not supportive of you and your desires? Has it always been this way in your marriage? If in the future your mother-in-law unilaterally gives away more of your belongings to others, is your husband going to still talk about good karma without supporting you? What does this mean for your kid, that their father won't support their mom? You have to think carefully about your marriage. For now, try to have your own friends and family to support you. Your postpartum and your physical and mental health are definitely going to be impacted all by this stress and in turn affect your baby. I'd tell the husband that we're keeping the RV or I'm getting it in the divorce. Also, let all of them know that it will be reported stolen if it leaves your property. I'd die on this hill. The amount of audacity, overstepping, entitlement, and pure blatant disrespect cannot be tolerated anymore. Be a good role model for your kid and show them that you never back down to a bully, even if those bullies are their own flesh and blood. You're the jerk. I've got a feeling husband was the one who actually paid for the RV and who did most of the work on it. Sure, you said we bought it, but you know how these stories usually go. His money is our money and my money is my money. Of course, if that is the case, you would totally leave that out, wouldn't you? If husband wants to give the RV to his sister, he has every right to. This is another story of a wife who expects her husband to turn against his family and support her delusional thinking. Well, who do you think is a jerk? OP or her mother-in-law? Please let us know. All I know is I want to watch some more of those RV life videos. I can't be the only one who enjoys them so much. Am I the jerk for not wanting to watch my brother's kids on our family vacation? I'm on vacation with my immediate family. I'm female 30, and my 2 brothers are in their late 30s. They're both married, and they each have kids. 5 kids in total, ranging in age from 3 to 9 years old. My parents are also on the trip, and I'm accompanied by my boyfriend of 2 years. We're here for a week, and it's been really fun so far. We have a mix of days where we have activities planned and then a few free days. My family has had a text thread going for months with all of the trip planning, so we knew which days were activity days versus free days. My boyfriend and I planned a romantic dinner for one of the free nights at a really nice restaurant on the island. We made a reservation months ago because it books up. I was getting ready to go out, and one of my sister-in-laws made a comment about me dressing up to stay in. I was confused and asked her to clarify. She said that she, my brother, and my other married brother and his wife were doing a couple spa evening experience that she booked a few days earlier, and they needed me and my boyfriend to watch all of their kids. She said my brother was supposed to have asked me earlier that day. He forgot to. When I explained that my boyfriend and I already had plans, she was super unsympathetic. She said they already prepaid for the spa experience, and since we hadn't paid for the dinner yet, it wouldn't make sense for them to have to cancel their plans. I never agreed to watch their kids. I love my nieces and nephews, but my family knows I'm child-free, and I have been for years. It's been a point of contention for a long time. I wouldn't mind watching them if I had been given advance notice, but to have them slapped on me when I had plans with my boyfriend made me really upset. My sister-in-law said I didn't understand how much she needed time away from her kids because I don't have kids of my own. She said I was being selfish and I could handle one night of being a mom. It's not the point. I would have agreed if she had asked me months ago before my boyfriend and I had made dinner plans. I checked and we wouldn't be able to get another reservation before we leave. My parents walked in on us arguing and eventually they offered to watch the kids. They were supposed to go to a free concert on the beach together, but decided to cancel so someone could stay with the kids. I felt really bad, but my mom insisted. Now it's the next day and my sister-in-law won't even look at me. I'm upset at her too, but we're stuck here for a week, so I don't know what to do. My mom thinks I should apologize, but I feel I'm the one who's owed the apology here. Am I the jerk? Edit. Forgot to add, we're not staying in a resort or hotel that would have babysitting services. We're staying in a family friend's vacation house and rental property. She said you were being selfish and you could handle one night of being a mom? Why not ask politely? Making accusations is not the way to get people to be nice to you. And why can't she accept a reasonable no? You had made plans just like they had. You couldn't reschedule. And also, she got what she needed, a babysitter for the night. So why is she mad at you and not at her husband or herself for not organizing her stuff properly? Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Your sister-in-law should be mad at your brother for not asking you for one thing, but they also should have asked you before booking. It sucks that they need this, but they're the parents, and there are more options besides assuming you will do it and then trying to guilt trip you when you don't. If you haven't already, you should talk to both of your brothers about this. You're their sister, and they wanted you to watch their kids, but thought it was fine not to ask and let your sister-in-law bully you into it. That's a one-way ticket to never having you babysit. And your mom is out of line for asking you to apologize rather than having a word with her son and daughter-in-law about how rude and immature they're being. OP. My mom is very non-confrontational and just wants to keep the peace while we're on vacation, so I understand that. But yeah, I'm planning on talking to my brothers about it today when I have a chance to be alone with them. My oldest brother, not the one who's married to the sister-in-law I was talking about here, told me not to worry about it this morning, so he sees my side of things, I think. Not the jerk. This is all I needed to read. My sister-in-law said I didn't understand how much she needed time away from her kids because I don't have kids of my own. Can't handle kids, don't have kids. She said you were being selfish because you couldn't handle one night of being a mom? Nope. Child-free means that you do not want to be a mom, not even for a night. Sister-in-law needs to put her entitlement in check, and the fact that your brother did not step in is leaving me flabbergasted. There is no part in this story that you are responsible for. If your mother thinks that you should be the one to apologize, show her this post. This is a hill to die on, and we're here to support you. Hopefully, you and your boyfriend can find a way to enjoy the rest of your vacation. All the best, OP. Well, what do you think? Should OP have babysat or not? Please let us know. Your sister-in-law is a total Karen. Boggles my mind how people can act like that. Am I the jerk for gleefully telling people that I was diagnosed with an illness after they dismissed me? I, 34, female, have always been a filler person. My parents each had a kid they obviously favored. My mom favored my younger sister, my father my younger brother. I'm the friend that is ignored in the group. I'm the employee whose birthday is forgotten. I'm the person who doesn't get dates. I've gotten used to it. As a result of being this agreeable, filler, boring person, I think the people around me don't realize that I'm a real person who has needs like everyone else. The prime example was when I said that my chest hurt and I coughed all the time. The people I spoke to, and I know only a few people, said that it was not a big deal and that I'd be fine. I'd never complained before, so I should be fine. I took that to heart and wondered if I really should have told people that I didn't feel well, and wondered if I was making it up in my head. It took me a long time to actually tell the doctor my symptoms because I thought I was overreacting, but I had to get checked out. Well, it turns out that there was something wrong with me. I have stage 2 lung cancer. I'm still independent and handling this alone. I drive myself to and from appointments, I pick up my medication, I reason with doctors and insurance. I haven't slacked in housework or at work. In fact, I've worked even harder. Today at work, I told my friend I couldn't help her move as a favor because I had a medical appointment that day. She pressed me for details, and I just said that I have treatment for lung cancer. I didn't want to give her more information than that. My husband complained that I told her the information gleefully, as if I'm happy about the news. I told him I'm happy to be diagnosed because it's proof for myself that I'm human with needs like everyone else. I wasn't crazy. He said I shouldn't act like this. My husband has been unstable and touchy about random things this year, so I don't know if he has a point. Am I the jerk? Edit. I'm in therapy. My therapist and I are working through things, and she's been very helpful. I feel somewhere between a filler person and an automation. Filler people aren't real. They don't have complexities in life, and they exist solely to make others shine. Machines don't get sick. The diagnosis was something that was concrete. I exist. I'm a person. I'm not crazy, and it's not in my head. I don't want attention from others. I cried and felt relief in the same moment. Thanks to the comments, I think I know why my husband has been unstable and touchy. The beginning of this year, the love of his life got into a car accident and broke her femur. She survived and is healthy now. I think that could be part of what's concerning him. My illness is a reminder that she could have passed, and she could still pass, and life is unpredictable that way. I alone wouldn't inspire such emotion in my husband. The comments made me realize that my husband likely felt hopeless at the concept of death. I traced back when he started to become touchy and moody and realized it was when she got into that accident. My husband has asked to help, but there's nothing for him to do. I've taken care of everything so far and will continue to do so. You buried the lead with that my husband's love of his life got in a car accident statement. OP. The love of his life, my husband's first love, the only one that got away, whatever you want to call it. They were childhood friends. They dated and broke up when my husband was younger. She's a passionate person that wanted to live a passionate life. My husband never got over her and blames himself for losing her. I met him shortly after he broke up with her. We dated for 2 years. Through bits and pieces, I've realized how much she means to him. He was an hour late to our wedding. I found out later that his father had to talk him out of leaving me at the altar. It would embarrass his family. He had doubts because of her. I mentioned her once, and he snapped at me to never mention her name again. He looks her up constantly, as she frequently posts on social media. They remain connected. He's always interested in news of her. He loves her deeply still, I know. She got into an accident earlier this year and broke her leg, her femur. I didn't know to connect his moodiness and general upset with that until now. Update. The past week has been a roller coaster of emotion for me. My therapist had suggested that I write my thoughts and emotions in a journal, but I always convinced myself there wasn't enough time in a day. Writing that post made me realize that I was dealing with a lot of emotions that I suppressed. I did resent the people in my life who just took and took without giving back. I had told nobody besides my therapist about how much I feel like a ghost of a person and how I pushed things down and never complained. So I spent hours writing down my thoughts in a diary. I realized that I needed to be more honest and stop tiptoeing around people and make them comfortable. I told my husband that I knew about his past with his ex-girlfriend. I knew that they had unresolved feelings and he needed closure about her and their relationship. He kept checking her social media throughout the years, but it intensified this year after she was in the accident. He was shocked that I knew. I encouraged him to reach out and get that closure he wanted. We had a good conversation. He hugged me and reached out to her pretty much immediately. I think he was waiting for that push from someone. He was so happy after the conversation they had. He was glowing. She's apparently coming to our city in a month and they'll meet in person. He's been more affectionate and genuinely lighter, like there's weight off his chest. I went through the motions of life. I started ignoring calls from my parents. I didn't want to help out anymore. I was too tired. My mom called and said I was being arrogant and moving away from family before asking me to help with something. I didn't reach out to my friends. I have only a few and we would text every day. I realized we texted because I always reached out. I told someone else about my diagnosis. My neighbor, Nancy, is a woman in her late 70s. She's one of the few people I feel seen by. She cares about me, and if I had told her about my health issues, she would have told me to go to the ER. I know why I didn't tell her, but I wonder why I hoped for care from people who have demonstrated no care for me instead of those that do. She was so worried for me. We had planned a fun day trip to see a flower festival next spring. I drove home on my first week of the second cycle, and for the first time, I was exhausted. I had to pull over and rest for an hour before I felt well enough to finish driving home. I was so exhausted, I didn't want to move, and I sat in my driveway. It hit me then that I didn't have stage 2. I had lung cancer. I could pass. I just started crying. It hit me then that I had lung cancer. This could end my life. I just started sobbing. All I could think of was the stupid flower festival. I haven't lived my life. I love my husband, my family, my friends, but I don't want to be married to him. I don't want to cater to my family, and I'm tired of my friends. I want to live. I want to be well enough to drive and see the flower festival with Nancy. It's only been a week and a half of change, and my emotions have gone from low to really high and back to low. I've been dreaming of my life after I beat cancer and leave my husband and friends. I don't even know if I can stick with it, but I am determined to be strong. My therapist says change from within can start small or big. She's proud of me and thinks I can get through this. OP is married to a guy who cares more about his ex than her. That's messed up. She needs to find someone who actually cares about her. Had to do a double take at the first mention of the love of his life, thinking I completely skipped over something big. Nope, just dropped it in so casually. What a messed up situation. Can't even rely on him to take her to medical appointments. Until the last post where OP finally broke down, it did not feel like this was written by a human being. The clinical way she describes her husband being blatantly in love with another woman for their entire marriage, like it's just a hobby, the detachment she describes encouraging him to pursue her, and how he was only saddened by her diagnosis because it reminded him of the other woman's mortality. That's messed up. This poor woman basically trained herself into total apathy to match how little care everyone else gives her. How could literally everybody who she should be closest to fail her so miserably? Forget everybody in her life but Nancy. Patient's boyfriend is mad he has to pick up his own Uber Eats. I work in a high-level hospital as an ICU nurse, and my managers are fantastic with staffing, meaning if you have a crashing, heavily workload patient, they'll make the other patient you have an easier one so you can focus on the sick one. For a background, ICU nurses have 2 patients and we specialize in critical thinking, whereas the telefloor is the normal part of the hospital people think about and holds less sick people who don't need as much attention. So these nurses have 6 patients and specialize in tasks and prioritization. So the beginning of my shift after report, I show my face and say hi to my less sick patient who is doing fantastic and just waiting for transport to take her to the telebed. I say I'll be back around 9 p.m. in 2 hours, unless she needs me for something else, so this gives me the time to stabilize the sick patient next door. Unfortunately, the sick patient in room 1 starts coding, and the team is actively doing CPR. Crash cart in the hallway, 3 doctors there, whole team trying to save this young guy. My team is working on meds, incubating, keeping compressions going, etc., while I'm talking with doctors about what could have caused it, and I'm halfway outside the room for the healthier patient in room number 2. She sees me through the window, presses the call light, and I ignore it because I have what should have been obviously a very pressing matter. Her boyfriend ends up opening the door and standing in the hallway to just stare at me with his arms crossed. Just to give them the benefit of the doubt that she could be concerned about her health, I say, "Is everything all right?" And he goes, and tries to lead me inside. Of course, I only pay attention to him when the docs go into room 1 to brainstorm on their own and assess where to go if we get this guy back. I look back through the window of room 1 and I realize I can give them 5 seconds to make sure nothing funky is going on. So she says, "Can you get my Uber Eats order? It just said it arrived downstairs." I swear I could have had a stroke from high blood pressure at that moment. So I kindly say, "I'm sorry, I'm busy with another critical patient. Could you..." I look to the boyfriend who's plopped in the recliner with his feet up watching Netflix again on his phone. Go get it for her? And he goes, I'd rather not. Oh, good sir. You don't want to? You saw the mess next door through the window, me talking seriously with 3 doctors, and the hot mess of people outside your room as we try to save a guy's life. So I tell him, I can't. The entire team is actively trying to save someone, and none of us are available to leave. So either you get it, or I can have someone get saltines for you instead. He sighs, gets up slowly, and then says, Fine, I guess I'll go get it then, as I turn to head back into room 1. Dude literally has to turn his shoulders to slide through the massive group of people, still upset he has to take 1 elevator down. When they get moved to another room around 10, he's speaking loudly on the phone to someone saying things like, The nurses are rude. They won't even get food for their patients, etc. The icing on the cake? She had just gotten off an insulin drip for being in a diabetic coma. Never have I met a more entitled person who put having to walk and get their own food delivery above someone else's life. I think anyone who's spent years working in a hospital will totally relate to this story. Yeah, before I worked at a hospital, I never had a clue how entitled people could actually be in real life. Stepdaughter's entitled boyfriend lands them homeless, careless, and adrift. I call my stepdaughter's entitled boyfriend Wreck-It Ralph. No relation to the trademark cartoon, just coincidental naming. He has a tendency to break, ruin, and tear up everything he touches. My stepdaughter, who's actually a sweet and endearing young woman who I love dearly, has, like many younger women with self-esteem issues, allowed herself to be led astray by this jerk. In the year they've been together, she's lost everything. But at 23, she's old enough to learn her lessons without us parents coming to her rescue until she gets rid of Ralph and gets back on track. When they first got together, they lived with her dad and myself for a few months. It very quickly became apparent that Ralph had a chip on his shoulder when it came to me. He would carry tales to my husband, causing us to argue, despite my husband telling Ralph many times that this was my house and everything in it was mine. Ralph would keep asking my husband, not me, if he could have this or that, and that's if he asked. He kept getting more and more animals, despite us telling him no more. Neither were taking care of the ones they had. They weren't buying dog or cat food and cat litter. My husband and I were. They weren't picking up the messes, and they weren't training them, allowing them to tear up our belongings. The only work these two would do is door delivery, her job with a daily payout, just to get enough money for Ralph to use for his recreational activities every day, along with eating at fast food restaurants. Ralph's chip on his shoulder when it came to me was such that they brought my husband a soda one night, walking in the back door right past me, calling out loudly, "We got you your favorite soda," to my husband in the living room with zero inclusion to me. Another example is my stepdaughter asking if she could use my debit card to go get the 4 of us drinks at a local convenience store one hot day. My husband and I were unloading stuff from the truck and trailer in the backyard, which was no problem. However, when checking my account, they spent $20 on food for Ralph without asking. The end came when I told them they had to replace the bedroom door their dog chewed the bottom out of, and refused to allow the pit bull they wanted to rescue, even though it had a bite history, to enter my home. They moved to my stepdaughter's mother's home at that point. During their time there, my stepdaughter kept getting tickets in her car, which is only registered to my husband. They weren't paying their insurance, which I had bought my stepdaughter her own policy and paid the startup out of my money when they lived with us, and didn't pay the plate renewal. Now her license is suspended, and it cost my husband and I $600 to get the plates, again in his name only, unsuspended. Plus, they had damaged the car and it needed repairs, so he took it from there. Before her license was suspended, but after the police took the plates from her car, my husband let her use his truck, which was on my insurance policy. Ralph drove it, and he has no license and blew the motor in it. It's now sitting and can't be used. I told my husband I would put the car on my insurance for him, but only if he drove it. If he returned it to them, I was canceling the insurance, which I stood by. Nevertheless, Ralph called daily demanding my husband return the car to them once it was legal and fixed. After 3 weeks, my husband finally said, "Look, you jerk, I don't know what it is that you think you're trying to accomplish here, but you're not demanding anything from me, and you're not getting the car back. I may have originally bought it for her because she got with you, but it is my car in my name, and I'm keeping it in lieu of the truck you ruined. Don't call me again about the car. Got it?" We'd been hearing of ongoing disputes between my husband's ex and Ralph. Things got so bad there that Ralph told my husband's ex-wife to pack her crap and get out of her own home. Another time he told her to shut up and remember who she's talking to. So we all decided it was time to let our daughter hit rock bottom since she wasn't seeing how Ralph had taken her from being a sweet, lovable, well-liked, and responsible girl in a college nursing program to this person with a criminal history and no prospects at the moment. My husband's ex-wife moved in with her boyfriend, turning the power off at the home that she had been renting, and told her former landlord, whom she was actually longtime friends with, she wouldn't allow it to affect their friendship if he evicted them for squatting, since neither were on her lease to begin with. When my stepdaughter called, wanting to come back, yeah, right, you ain't letting her come back with that idiot. My husband told her that she could, but not with Ralph. Now they are staying at a homeless shelter in the town where Ralph's mom lives, and Ralph's mom won't let them live with her either. We hate to see her go through this, but this entitled Ralph she won't let go of has really brought her down, and she can do so much better. This guy actually told us once he couldn't work at a factory that he interviewed at because it was climate controlled and his heart condition won't allow that. Then argued with me and my husband that climate controlled meant controlled by the climate, so it was hot in the summer and cold in the winter. We haven't seen him hold a job or do anything useful or productive since they've been together. Just demand stuff from us and use the people who love the girl he's becoming a Klingon to. Ralph is an absolute jerk. I'd go so far as formally trespassing him from your property and going no contact with him. Your daughter will at some stage hopefully see sense, but it may take time. I wish I could find a factory that had both air and heat. Ralph reminds me of my brother, lazy and entitled. Ralph is the scum of the earth, and we need to teach our kids to be aware of losers like this. Also, we need to teach our kids to not become losers like this. Sorry, OP, this guy sucks big time. I hope your stepdaughter's finally able to chew her way to freedom sometime soon for her own sake. I can't imagine she's happy with him. What exactly does he bring to the table besides heartache and pain? He's destroying all of her relationships and cutting her off from everyone that loves her. She has to be miserable. Tale as old as time. She rejects guy after guy for all the wrong reasons. I see you as a brother. I like you as a friend. You're just not the type of guy I usually like. Next thing you know, she's with some guy like this and refuses to leave him. Meanwhile, the good dudes out there can't get a date to save their life because we aren't convicted criminals with tattoos that do recreational activities and treat people like crap. My brat stepdaughter is demanding I pay for her birthday dinner even though she hates me and won't allow me to attend. My wife has 3 kids, 2 sons who are 20 and 19, and a daughter who's 16 from her previous relationship. Their father was an addict, but now he's clean. He doesn't have custody, but does visit when he can. My stepsons and I are not close, but they've been respectful to me at least. My stepdaughter, who I'll call S, has not. She genuinely doesn't even like me. She refuses to talk to me. She doesn't want me attending her shows. She doesn't accept any gifts that I've given her, usually giving them away or tossing them in the trash. She doesn't listen to me if I'm the one enforcing rules when she isn't grounded. It has to be her mom who puts her foot down. She doesn't listen to me if I'm the one enforcing rules when she's grounded. It has to be her mom who puts her foot down. Her birthday was last week. She had testing that day. My wife wanted her birthday to be extra special because she was turning 16 and had good grades. S wanted to go to an expensive restaurant with her family. I was not allowed to come according to her, but she wanted me to give her mom the money to pay for it. I told her I would not pay. She got upset and told me it was the least I could do and how she asks for so little, but I stood my ground. Her mom took her to a less expensive restaurant. S is now upset with me. Her granddad is also upset with me, telling me I should have paid and that it was her 16th birthday that I ruined. My wife is on my side and says there's no winning with her. I know how important becoming 16 is, and I feel bad for not getting her a gift at all. So, am I the jerk? You sound completely insufferable. If all 3 of her kids don't like you, I'm sure they have their reasons. You acting immature by refusing to pay for her birthday dinner is just the icing on the cake. You are not entitled to attend her birthday events. I'm disappointed in their mother for being with someone who is as controlling and manipulative as you are. Don't be surprised when she leaves you for someone who respects her and her kids. I feel like there's more going on here than we're being told. I mean, she doesn't just dislike him, she actively hates him. And the sons don't seem to like him either. They're just more mature about it being older. So, what's the deal? Aw, widow baby is sad that his stepdaughter doesn't want him at her birthday dinner. Widow man gonna throw a fit now. How fragile your ego must be to pick a fight with a 16-year-old. If you can't handle being a stepdad, then quit wasting this woman and her family's time. Go become one of those crazy dog guys who copes with his loneliness by getting two big dogs and acting like they're your kids. Not the jerk. Bro, this is why you don't date single moms. If she was widowed and left behind, then that's one thing. But if she chose to leave her man the way it pretty much always happens, you can bet your butt that those kids are going to be taught to resent men, and they will take out that aggression on you. Any guys still getting into relationships with single moms these days, you honestly deserve what you're setting yourself up for. Life isn't like the romantic comedy movies you were fed your whole life. You don't even want to know the things I've seen, the things I've done, or the things I would do again if I had to. I wonder how many bodies this guy has buried under his house. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his stepdaughter? Please let us know. Listen, homeboy, you need to run and run fast. Are you really willing to deal with this brat for possibly the rest of your life? Cool it, Karen. People have been getting upset about the things you've been saying recently. I don't care. It's a free country. Am I the jerk for never helping my older siblings out and letting my brother and his family be homeless? My family is on a big divide about this, so I was hoping I could get an unbiased perspective. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, by far. I'm 22, female, and my husband is 26, male. My siblings are 30, female, 32, male, and 33, male. Between the 3 of them, they have a combined 14 kids. They all have multiple kids. None of them went to college, and they all work lower-paying entry-level jobs. I graduated last year. I started college in high school, and I work as a nurse. My husband works on planes, but I don't want to say what he does specifically. Our household income is about $200,000, and average where we live is about $80,000, I think. This is all relevant. My parents like to host big family functions for every holiday, and they bring the whole family together. Ever since I was a teenager, my siblings have always asked me for favors, mostly to babysit. I did it for a while when I was around 16, but quickly realized they didn't appreciate anything and there was nothing in it for me, so I stopped. For the past 6 years, I've had the "don't ask me for anything" stance, since my siblings are the type to ask for favors but never offer to help you when you need it. They always borrow money from our parents but never pay it back. My oldest brother is getting evicted and asked if him and his girlfriend and their 4 kids could stay with me and my husband. My husband and I own a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. I told him no because they have a habit of settling in somewhere and not paying rent and refusing to leave. They also let their 4 kids absolutely destroy every rental they live in, coloring on the walls, holes in the walls, etc. My brother and his girlfriend are upset with me, and they blew up at me at my mother's birthday party last week. They're going to have to stay at a shelter, and they're saying that it's my fault, but I think it's their own lack of responsibility. My other 2 siblings chimed in, agreeing with my brother, and they think I'm a jerk. I think that my siblings suck, and I don't want my house getting torn up by their heathens. Heathens. I know that if I let them move in, I'd end up having to evict them, and they wouldn't pay for anything at all. I think it's not fair that they always ask me for money because I make more money than they do. And they treat my husband and I like we're some kind of upper-class snobs because we worked hard and made good choices in life to be able to buy a house early. Am I the jerk for not helping my siblings? Specifically my brother, I guess? Update. I'm offering to pay for everyone to get a vasectomy or have their tubes tied this Christmas and giving my brother enough money to cover the red roof in for a week. That's it. All I'm doing for anyone, and they better not call me ever again because I'm not answering. Not the jerk. They don't pay the money they owe. They destroy other people's property. They also have parents and multiple other siblings. They have a history of not paying rent and having to be evicted. At this point, start asking why they're in a shelter and no one else is helping. Combined with all the siblings and parents, they can hustle and pay their rent on a new place. Again with the "I'm poor but I have 157 kids." Come on. If you're low on money, just have 1 or 2 kids so nobody starves or lives in shelters. Why do people put themselves in this position? So that others in the family can pay for theirs? These are not your kids. Your siblings are not your responsibility. They are adults and should take care of themselves. If they were sick or had an accident, then it would be one thing. But no, they just don't pay rent for a habit. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for snapping at my aunt who said I wasn't a real doctor? I, 35 female, am a plastic surgeon. I went through years of medical school and residency, but it was worth it. I originally started med school with the hopes of going into psychiatry, but surgery really interested me. The problem started years ago when I first told my family that I was going into plastic surgery because it was what interests me the most. My parents, siblings, and brother-in-law were all supportive, and whenever I felt like giving up, they were always there to push me. But a lot of my other family members weren't as supportive. My aunts always made snide comments about it, as well as my cousins, uncles, and grandparents on both sides. They were all happy when they knew I was in med school, but completely flipped when they found out I was pursuing plastic surgery. It annoyed me at first, but I learned to just move on from it. But recently, my cousin, 40 female on my dad's side, who's the daughter of the aunt who keeps making comments about my job, did a PLC on nursing and childcare, which didn't bother me. I couldn't care less what she does. But my aunt thought I should know everything that's happening with her daughter. Every time I see her, she goes on about how smart her daughter is and how amazing she is for doing a PLC in nursing and childcare. But the last time I saw her, she said something that really annoyed me. Me and my sister were over at her house because she had some hand-me-downs to give to my nephew. We were all eating when she said, "It's great that she's going into medical school." She's not. She doesn't even have the brains for medical school. "Maybe we can finally have a real doctor in the family." I sat there in silence for a second, thinking, what is she talking about? And then looked at my sister, who looked equally upset as me. I snapped back and said, "Her taking care of kids doesn't make her a doctor, and her knowing how to clean a cut doesn't either. She's not in medical school. She's too dumb for that. She wouldn't even last a week before dropping out." My aunt looked really upset and yelled at me for being rude. And then she told me I wasn't much of a doctor either. I yelled back at her that I went through years of medical school and residency, and that I'm a licensed doctor and surgeon, and that she doesn't know what she's talking about. My aunt started crying and left the room, so me and my sister just left. A few hours later, I got a text from my cousin calling me names for what I had said and for attacking her mom. I got more texts from my other family members, and it somehow traveled to my mom's side of the family as well. Majority of them are telling me to apologize for yelling at my aunt, but my immediate family, mom, dad, brother, sister, in-laws, girlfriend, they're telling me not to. Now I'm being shunned by both sides of the family, and they're all refusing to talk to me and won't even let me tell my side of the story. So, was I the jerk? Not the jerk. A lot of people have an out-of-date Hollywood idea of what a plastic surgeon really does with medicine. They think you picked your specialty so you can get rich by serving wealthy, vain people. They forget about all of the other people that need reconstructive surgery because of accidents, fires, bacteria, etc. Your aunt sounds ignorant. OP. I feel like I should add that my attack on my cousin wasn't just something random. She's as bad as my aunt. She always makes comments about my job and other things in my life, and always has. She's rude to everyone in my family, and is just a generally bad person to be around. Also, before I got into med school, she'd go on about how you have to be really smart to get into it, insinuating that I wasn't smart enough. Everyone sucks here. Calling your cousin dumb and too stupid for school is absolutely the wrong tactic, even if you were insulted by her mother. There was cruelty in what your aunt said about you, but there was also cruelty in what you said about your cousin. You're the boss? Okay. You're the boss. I just found out my old boss was fired and remembered his story and thought I'd share this multiple malicious compliance with you guys. So back in 2021, I was working from home with a team of about 20 people in my department. To summarize, our job was to monitor credit cards. We worked pretty independently and efficiently, so the company to award this literally promoted the entire department and tripled our pay. And with this, they emphasized that we should be more independent, take more responsibility, and all of that. And everyone was super okay with it. But then, 6 months later, as every story on this sub goes, there was a change in management. The manager took a job at another bank, and our supervisor was fired for doing the deed in the company grounds. Pretty cool guy, but he made a terrible choice on where to do it. The new manager was pretty competent. As far as I know, she's still in the position. The problem was the new supervisor to our department, aka best friend of new manager. He came into the job knowing absolutely zero about what we did and immediately wanted to demand results. But then again, he knew nothing about what we did, so he would demand results in the wrong places. Always asking for overtime even when we didn't need it. Complaining about how we didn't use formal language on the group chat and so on. One relevant thing he learned on his first week is that I was supposed to take his job before he came along. My old supervisor was training me to take his job because he was about to leave anyway. and everyone on my team came to me when they needed something, and I would always help them. But he was quick to remind me, as we hopped on a call, that he was the boss. He told me if anyone asked me for something, to tell them to go to him. I said okay. This backfired very quickly, since he didn't know anything about what we did. He didn't know how to help all the people coming to him. After a few days, they stopped asking him since he could never help them and came back to me again. Then again, he told me to hop on a call with him, and his new strategy was to, whenever someone asked him for something, he would then just ask me. Again, I said okay. After a month of this, our production was at the lowest it had been in 3 years, but he was happy since everyone was going to him and getting, albeit longer responses. So he had to look somewhere else to cause intrigue. He started to complain when people took their breaks. Our shifts were 8 hours a day with 3 breaks, 2 10-minute breaks, and an hour break. Everyone had their time to go on these breaks, but since it didn't impact our job in the slightest, everyone just went when it was most convenient for them. All my colleagues were complaining to me that he was making a big deal of when they took their breaks. He went on a 10-minute rant on why I shouldn't take my 1-hour break 30 minutes before I was supposed to. I told him it was because I went to a bakery close to my house every day because I was too tired to make dinner and had to take my 30-minute break early, otherwise it would be closed. He said if I wanted to go to the bakery, I should go on my own personal time when I'm off the clock. I said okay, but what he said gave me an idea for me to go on my own personal time. As per company code, besides the 1 hour and 20-minute break, you have up to 1 hour of personal break per day, in which you can do whatever you need to for whatever personal reason. I told my colleague this, and every day, 1 hour before my 1 hour break, I would take 1 hour of personal break to go to the bakery and buy lunch. My colleagues would do similar things that they needed to do during the time they were used to taking their breaks. Well, 2 months later, the entire department was terminated since we weren't bringing in enough revenue to the company. Unfortunately, this supervisor wasn't let go until last week, and the department he took over also was terminated. And another disclaimer to anyone worried about 20 people losing their jobs. We have a pretty niche set of skills, and everyone quickly found jobs of similar paying wages. No one was sad to be fired. We were actually pretty happy. A few even resigned before the ship sunk. Am I the jerk for telling my 12-year-old niece to not make life any harder for her mom? I, 40 female, have a 12-year-old niece and an 8-year-old high-needs nephew. They are my sister's kids. She's 37. My niece's birthday was yesterday, and she has cupcakes ready to bring to her school. My nephew doesn't sleep well at all, and both his parents are up with him a lot of the night and very sleep deprived. Nephew snuck downstairs yesterday morning before everyone was up and ate most of the cupcakes. Parents forgot to lock the cabinet. Like I said, they're very sleep deprived. Brother-in-law works about 60 hours a week as a physician, and sister is a stay-at-home mom. My niece called me from her cell phone. We're very close and I only live 5 miles away. And with her being hysterical, I could also hear nephew having a meltdown in the background and his parents trying to calm him down. She was understandably upset because it was her birthday and she was bringing cupcakes to the class. Neither of her parents would be able to replace the cupcakes on time as sister had to take nephew to a doctor's appointment. They would have been there a number of hours, and her dad had several surgeries lined up that day and couldn't get out of work. We live in a rural area that doesn't have Uber Eats or DoorDash. My partner, 42 female, owns the local bakery and was able to go in early to make impromptu cupcakes for my niece, and my partner would deliver it to her school. I too couldn't get out of work. So I told my niece not to worry, that I would take care of it, but to please lay off her parents, that their lives are hard enough with her brother, that she shouldn't make things any more difficult for them because they're so burnt out and overwhelmed. She got angry with me because she said her parents were careless in forgetting to lock the cabinet. I told her it was an honest mistake that anyone could make. My partner thinks I shouldn't have said that because she's just a kid. This is true, but her parents are literally hanging on by a thread, and I'm trying to help the only way I know how. Her parents thanked us profusely for coming to the rescue with her cupcakes and offered to pay, but we declined, saying it was on the house. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. My experience is that when a high-needs kid eats up all of the energy and time and attention, the other kid is told to stuff their feelings down at that age, and it emerges somewhere else in life. For a couple of my students, it ended very, very badly. Her feelings are valid. She's too young to get over it for her parents like an adult. I agree with your partner. I don't know what the high needs are, but you might cover for the parents sometime so that they can sleep. Help them find a respite caregiver. Take the niece out away from the chaos. Guy tries to sell house from under my family. Gets his just desserts. This happened back when I was a kid. My family was looking for a large house and found the perfect one back in the early 2000s. When my dad talked with the owners, they had agreed to getting some plumbing fixed on the house before we moved in if we moved all of their stuff into the 2-car garage, so it would be easier for them to move. There was also several things to be repaired, a pool to clean, and a ton of landscaping to be done. My dad did the repairs and used his army of offspring to do all the landscaping, pool work, etc. The house was looking amazing compared to before, and we were a week from moving in. Now, I to this day do not know why my dad did this, but he had paid a cash deposit. There was no paper trail, and the owners decided to take advantage of this. When it got to be a few days before we moved in, the owners told my dad they weren't moving their stuff out of the garage or doing the plumbing fixes that were needed to use any of the bathtubs or showers in the house. He could deal with no garage and pay for the plumbing fixes, or he could buzz off. No refund of deposit if he didn't like it. They even said they were thinking of moving someone else in because the house value was more with all of the fixes we had already done. My father asked to turn in the keys we had been given the next morning because this was all told to him at 8 p.m. on a weekday. With no paperwork yet signed, there was nothing attaching my dad to the house and no cameras or security system. He had just been done over by a few $1,000s by the owner, and it was maybe 2 weeks until Christmas. His gift that year was going to be giving each of us kids our own rooms for the first time. Cue revenge. He brought all of us kids over to the house for a little party. Each kid was given their own special bit of destruction. Someone was shoveling sand into the pool. My brother with anger issues was told to punch out every hole he had patched up in the walls. The smaller kids were told to rock the banister on the stairs until it broke. I was told to rip out the landscaping we had done and make a path of it all over the stairs. Every single thing we had fixed or improved, taken back by very creative and energetic kids. While all of this happened, my dad and stepmom went through everything in the garage from the owners and took anything they could gift to family, pawn, or sell. There were high-value collectibles, jewelry, and a computer that my dad gave us for Christmas. The next day, my dad told the owners he had put the keys in the garage with its door open that night for them. He then unplugged the phone, and we never heard from those people again. Was it legal? No. Not on either end. Did we have a good Christmas? Yes. Was it fun destroying the place? Yes. I actually did a very tastefully done carpet of hedge branches, torn out flowers, and some of the sand and pool gravel on the actual carpet of the house. How blind are you? I am legally blind. I have no sight in one eye and very little sight in the other, but I can see a little. I walk with a sight cane, but generally do need some help to get around. I was at the airport in Cincinnati, Ohio, returning from a business trip, and I asked the person helping me to take me to a Starbucks since I was desperate for caffeine. She put me in line, then she said she would be back in 20 minutes. So I'm standing in line when this woman starts creeping on my right, then a little more and a little more. She was trying to pull cutesies on me. Oh, I didn't think so. So I slyly slid my cane over to my right, effectively preventing said cutesies. She realizes she's been caught and huffs a bit, having her plan of cutting in front of an under-caffeinated blind person at 6:45 a.m. effectively thwarted. I get my drink and I take a seat. Then Cutsy Carol sits down at my table and waves her hand in front of my face, and we have the following exchange. Karen: So, are you blind or what? Me: Pardon? Like, how much can you see? Are you faking? Just how blind are you? Me: I mean, I saw enough to know you were attempting to cut in front of a blind person. So, you can see? Waves her hand in my face again. Can you see this? Why do you need a cane if you can see? Is it macular degeneration or what? Me: Ma'am, it's too early for this. Please leave my table. I don't owe you an explanation or any part of my medical history. I'm just trying to enjoy my drink in peace while I wait for my guide. Jeez, I was just asking. Huffs and leaves for parts unknown. Thank goodness. I don't know why people see someone who's disabled and feel entitled to their story or their medical devices. I have had people grab my cane and pull me where they want me to go. Parents who think it's cute to let their kids grab my cane. It's not. Last 4th of July, a random woman saw me walking with my family and grabbed my arm to drag me over to her son, who had recently lost his eyesight, so I could tell him my story. Didn't ask, just grabbed. My daughter let her know how horribly inappropriate that was, and this woman was super offended because she was just trying to help her son adapt to his new reality. Like she thought I owed that to her by daring to be blind. Disabled people are not sideshows. We are just trying to live our lives just like you are. Am I the jerk for complimenting a friend of mine, making my fiancé jealous? I, 29 male, have known my good friend Sarah, who's also 29, since we were both 7 years old. We grew up together and we were very close. Sarah is very beautiful and stylish. She's working as a bridal consultant and a stylist, and she's into the fashion industry, so her sense of style is immaculate. My fiancée, Jane, who's 27, is a lawyer. She has a more casual style, while Sarah has a more glamorous style. And I realize how both of their careers and lifestyles also affect their sense of style. For the record, I adore my fiancée. I've been with her since she was 20 and I was 22. Proposed to her a year ago, and she's the nicest and most supportive woman I've ever met. So before anyone says I might be attracted to Sarah over my fiancé, remember this. Sarah is a good friend, but we are not compatible to work as a couple at all. Her life goals do not align with mine, and her lifestyle is exhausting for me. While Jane and I, on the other hand, are compatible in every aspect. Sarah is what we'd call conventionally attractive, while Jane has a more unique kind of beauty. Sarah is the kind of woman who will make everyone turn their heads and just stare at her whenever she enters a room. She's always been like that. Jane didn't seem to mind at first, but later on she started getting bothered whenever I over-complimented Sarah, but still didn't make a big deal out of it. A friend of ours got engaged over the weekend and had this engagement party with his new fiancé. Sarah was invited and so were we. As always, once Sarah walked in, everyone turned to look at her. It was one of the best outfits she had worn and one of the best hairstyles she had had. I went to greet her and I couldn't stop complimenting her all night long because she truly outdid herself. I noticed Jane sitting alone later and I went to ask her what was wrong. She replied that I'm ridiculous for acting as if I didn't know already. Then my friend's new fiancé and my friend pulled me to the side and told me they had spotted my fiancé crying in the hallway a while ago, and she told them that she feels like she's never going to be as good and pretty as Sarah in my eyes, and she feels humiliated and jealous. My friend's fiancé also told me what Sarah wore to the engagement party was not appropriate, but she wouldn't say anything because she doesn't want to stir drama, and that at some point, Sarah needs to stop trying to have all the attention to herself, constantly trying to overshadow everyone. Am I the jerk? You went to greet her and you couldn't stop complimenting her all night long because she truly outdid herself? What the heck? You couldn't stop? Yeah, you're the jerk. Even worse, OP's fiancé has already commented that OP over-compliments his friend. OP, why can't you just zip it with the compliments for women that aren't your fiancé, full stop? How other women look shouldn't be important enough for you to compliment them all night long, particularly in front of the woman you claim to love and want to marry. You're the jerk. Complimenting someone else, regardless of gender, shouldn't be a problem. I like getting compliments from my male friends, and I don't mind at all when my husband compliments his female friends. I feel like if OP had just said, "Hi, you look great tonight," to his friend and moved on, it wouldn't have been a problem for anyone. But it sounds like he spent the evening blatantly fawning over her, which I suspect was uncomfortable for everyone, including his friend. My dude, I can hear you salivating from over here. Did you ever consider maybe don't do that to your fiancé? Sarah's beautiful, stunning, glamorous, we get it, but you can just close your mouth about it. At near 29, you're old enough to know that what you say has a purpose and has an impact. So what exactly is the purpose of you raving about Sarah's looks? Why do you do that? What do you think is the impact of doing that? Like, this is not hard to figure out, bro. You're the jerk. Exactly. What's the purpose of that? Does she not know she's attractive? Do you need to tell her? You're the jerk. I hope your fiancé gets away from being someone's second choice. Nice and compatible, but not awesome. You're the jerk. No wonder your fiancé feels down in the dumps about herself. Did you fawn all over her like you did your friend? Did you tell her she looked beautiful? Anything? It's also interesting you didn't notice she was upset to the point of crying until someone else had to clue you in. You were too busy obsessing over another woman. You're the jerk. You don't even realize that you're attracted to your best friend and making your fiancé's self-esteem plummet. The only reason you should shower someone with compliments is if they are the center of attention and you're focused on them, like weddings where you compliment the bride and groom. You don't spend hours in front of the bride complimenting the maid of honor. My theory is that you think your friend is out of your league and you are settling. Your fiancé deserves better. The fact the only reason you and Sarah aren't compatible is her lifestyle proves it. You never once said, "I don't feel attracted to her." You said she's too high maintenance, basically. Also, reading the outfit she chose, Sarah is also a massive jerk. She wanted to upstage the bride and groom. Who does that? Don't want to fix the elevator? Meet the Stinky card. While I was earning my bachelor's in chemistry, I worked for the university's hazmat department. My job involved inspecting labs, disposing of old chemicals, occasionally giving people the "you've got to be kidding me" stare, and plenty of other fun activities so our esteemed researchers can figure out science in a safe environment. Quick description of the campus. One building was a more recent construction. It has 2 wings and was shaped like the vaguely S-shaped Tetris block no one loves. The east wing was full of laboratories, 3 full stories and basement of labs, cancer research, Alzheimer's research, deadly banana fungus research. The place housed the most prestigious staff of brilliant minds trying to solve the world's problems. The west wing housed the administrative offices of the university, accountants, bookkeepers, and assorted bean counters, HR and desk jockeys, all the way up to the dean. People who, unlike their eastern counterparts, seem to be the cause of many baffling questions like, why are our emergency expenditures still not approved? Why is there a problem with my payslip again? And why is there so much red tape? That building was connected to the rest of the campus via underground tunnels, accessed via the basement, and had 1 elevator per wing. Now, the thing is that the loading dock is in another building. So when the labs receive their orders of chemicals, they grab their cart and scoot down the tunnel to the arrivals, load up their cart, and carry it back to the lab to be safely restored, on penalty of getting the "are you kidding me" stare or a long lecture by my boss. Important point. The rules prohibit using the stairs with hazmat. Elevator only. It's safer this way. So one day the science wing's elevator breaks down. I send a request to have it fixed. At least 4 lab employees also send it. We received the response that we all should use the administrative elevator. I reply that since one of the labs is on a sort of half floor, the only way to reach it is the science wing elevator or a flight of stairs. Highlighted the risk of falling while carrying heavy boxes of chemicals in the stairs, or how there was no way to safely carry heavy gas cylinders up those stairs. They were having none of that. Use the administrative wing elevator. They will call to have the elevator fixed, but it is considered low priority. I showed the reply to my boss. He was the type of guy for who workplace safety is no laughing matter, and I was expecting him to reply with a strongly worded email and about 4 to 5 paragraphs from various workplace safety laws text. Instead, he had a strange smile. "Oh, don't worry, Rum. It'll soon be a priority to them." 2 days later, my boss comes in. "Rum, don't forget the biohazard truck comes tomorrow. You should collect the wastes from the labs." Oh boy, biohazard day. The day where I get to leave my office, visit every lab in the university, jokingly saying, "Bring out your dead," as I enter and have a chat with teachers, classmates, and various lab aides. I put on my lab coat and protective goggles. And don't forget, the elevator in the science wing is broken. You have to go through the administrative wing. Oh, now I get it. See, when the pencil pushers decided that fixing the elevator wasn't a priority, they didn't realize that I would be walking around with a cart filled with containers bearing a bright yellow biohazard logo and returning with them full of old petri dishes full of culture medium. And any biochemists or microbiologists worth their lab coat will tell you, culture medium stinks. It smells like regurgitated baby food left out in the sun. So here I am, walking in front of all those nice offices and meeting rooms, the clack, clack, clack of my cart full of biohazard announcing my arrival, and the smell of death following me. Yes, I made sure that all bags were properly sealed, but it's one of those powerful smells that just doesn't care about that. The nice lobby outside the elevator where people wait to meet the dean. "Hello, sorry about the smell." The meeting room with the open door. "Sorry about the noise. Can I get an update on that elevator?" People walking down the hall in their office suits. Wow, they sure do seem a bit nervous seeing a guy in a lab coat driving around containers with the biohazard symbol on them. Should I tell them it's harmless unless you're severely immune compromised? Nah. Oh, and my cart has only room for 3 of those containers, plus the new ones I leave to replace the full ones. Biohazard day is about 2 to 4 trips per floor. After the second of such biohazard day, we got a message stating that the elevator will be fixed over the weekend. My Karen neighbor says she's entitled to my yard while I'm away. I'm 27, female, and I live in a rather nice neighborhood near the middle. My neighbor, entitled mom, has a large dog and a rather destructive son who we'll call entitled kid. I have a pretty good financial situation, and I live alone because the house was passed down to me in the will. It's a pretty big yard compared to Karen's yard, which is almost half its size. I have no gate for the yard, leaving it open for any pets or animals to come right in. I work from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., so I'm gone for a long while during the day. Karen is the type to do a lot of gardening, so she doesn't like entitled kid in the yard with all the tools. One day, she asked me if I would allow her son to play in my yard while I was at work. It couldn't cause any harm, could it? I accepted, but I did tell her that her son would have to be gone by the time I was back, and all went well until I got my first cat. Keep in mind, entitled kid would always bring the dog over with him to play. I named my new ginger cat, Ginger. Ginger loved to bask out in the sun with the entitled kid and the dog, until one day I found she wasn't outside. In fact, she was inside with a bite mark. I rushed her to the vet immediately, where she was treated and wore some sort of bandage wrap around her waist for the next week or so. I checked the cameras, only to see entitled kid trying to move Ginger out of her general spot so that he could sit there, and she swiped at him, scaring him off. It seemed that entitled kid's dog did not take kindly to this, and the mark was not a bite mark, but a swipe from the dog. I presented this info to Karen, who denied it and said, "He's just a kid, and Ginny is fine." I reminded her that it was Ginger, then told her that neither her son or dog were allowed on my property again. She threw an absolute tantrum and told me that they should be entitled to the yard while I was away, because, after all, you can't just let it go to waste. I then reassured her of my decision, to which she said word for word, "Ma'am, you need to leave." I'm so confused. I'm considering my options, and I think small claims court is a bit too much for this. What am I supposed to do? Edit. Yes, I did see all of your comments about liability. I'm currently trying to find out the best kind of fence I can get regarding the neighborhood HOA. As mentioned, I do have cameras, and I put up a no trespassing sign next to the mailbox. I did have her read and sign a contract stating that she or any other member of her family were to be allowed on my property, and if this happened, I would not be liable. Also, I will be able to sue her for trespassing, and recommended that she fill her kid in with this info. As you may expect, she threw a tantrum saying, "You need to get over it. It's just a cat. You don't even need the yard when you leave." Although I did get her to sign the contract at the end, even getting to watch the look on her face get more and more sour. Thanks for your advice, everyone. If they, the kid or the dog or the mom, come onto your property again, call the police. You have clearly stated that they are not welcome and they would thus be trespassing. Document the cat's injury and keep that information. Do not let them back on your property, especially not if the kid is unattended. Keep rinsing the rice until the water runs clear? Got it. Years ago, I was a cook at a well-known fast casual restaurant known for their large burritos and charging extra for guac. I worked hard because the place was very understaffed given the number of customers that came in. Management was understanding when we had to cut corners to make sure people did not wait for food. One of the rules we had to follow before cooking the rice was to rinse the raw rice 3 times until the water runs clear. Vague? I know. How clear is clear? What if after 3 rinses, the water is not clear? 3 times and runs clear? Or 3 times or runs clear? Who knows? I did not ask. Most of the time, we would give the rice 1 or 2 rinses before throwing it into the cooker. Never had any problems with customers complaining about it, and we never ran out of rice. Since there were never any problems, management did not care, and everyone was happy. That is, until one day, Miss Manager decides it's time to enforce every single rule exactly. Not sure why. To get to the position she was in, she knew how to do all of the individual tasks in the kitchen, so she knew the rules. However, she did not know how to conduct the symphony of the dozens of simultaneous tasks at the speed and accuracy required to keep customers moving and to never burn anything. I did. She did not know which corners were okay to cut and which ones were not. I did. As I was getting ready for the busy shift, but the kitchen was not in busy mode yet, I'm rinsing rice and Miss Manager approaches me. Make sure to rinse the rice until the water runs clear. I look at her and respond, I always do. She knew I was lying, but she knew why. She knew that it would take longer to make the rice, but I was the only one who could make sure that rice never runs out. Her life would be horrible if we ran out of rice. She had a chance to let it go. She did not, though. Mr. Cook, I know you don't follow that rule. Keep rinsing the rice until the water runs clear, and before you put this rice on the cooker, come find me and show me that it runs clear. I looked at her with a straight face and replied, Keep rinsing the rice until the water runs clear? Got it. I began. Fill the pot of rice with water, agitate the rice, pull out some perforated part of the pot, and dump out all of the cloudy water. After 3 times, the water is still resembling water skim milk. I look up. She's watching me. She asks, Does that water look clear to you? It was rhetorical. I see how it is. I start rinsing again. Satisfied, she walks away. I continue repeating the process. A while goes by, and yes, I am counting the number of times. The long grains of rice are breaking apart, and the entire pot is turning into a strange, mushy mixture of white rice. Given the time I'm taking on this dumb task, everything else that needs to get started in the kitchen is falling apart. Finally, Miss Manager appears in the kitchen again. You're still rinsing rice? The timing was perfect. I dump out the water in front of her and ask, Does that water look clear to you? As I dump out the precursor to slightly watered down horchata, she softly says, No. I step away from the sink. How many times do you think I've rinsed this rice? I ask. 7? She answers. No, try 37. I wasn't joking. I've rinsed this rice 37 times and the water is not running clear to your satisfaction. Should I continue? She looks at the rice, knows it's unusable, and that she has lost the fight. On one hand, she can't tell me to keep going because the ground up rice was only a few rinses and a cook away from becoming grits. On the other hand, she cannot tell me to stop rinsing because then she would be in violation of the sacred rice rinsing commandment. Additionally, she cannot fire me, otherwise the store could not open. She scheduled me to work the entire day, and she sure knows that she could not do what I do in the kitchen. Fine, she relents. Get back in there and make sure we're ready when it's time to open. I laughed to myself as I went back to work. I win. Am I the jerk for wanting a week's vacation alone, away from my partner and kids? Me, 32 female, and my partner, 37 male, are in a disagreement. He thinks I'm selfish for considering this. I don't think I am. He suggested I post here to see what you all say. We've been together for 12 years. My partner has 2 responsibilities in terms of the house. He walks the dogs in the morning and he goes to work full-time 8 to 6. More often than not, he falls asleep at 8 p.m. He works in IT. We have 3 kids who are 7, 4, and 2, and I'm fully responsible for their care as well as every household duty, laundry, cooking, cleaning. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I'm also self-employed. So after I look after the kids all day, I then work for a couple hours on my laptop. My birthday is coming up. I asked my partner what he would think if I booked myself a vacation for a week on my birthday and went out on my own. If he could use his paid time off to take time off to look after and spend the week with our 3 kids, taking them to school and taking care of the house. He told me I was selfish. It's selfish to want to go on holiday for a week for my birthday? He said yes. My partner hasn't done a load of laundry in the 10 years. He cooks dinner occasionally, 2 times a month. He doesn't hoover, mop, or mow lawns. I get it. He's tired and he works full-time. But I work too, and I don't feel appreciated. I just want a week where I don't have to placate a crying kid or stop the toddler from running into traffic or worry about everyone else's good time while sacrificing my own. The last time I spent time away from the kids and house was when we went out for dinner for his birthday in March, after they were asleep and I organized the babysitter. Oh, and my pap smear, which he tried to make me take the kids to, even though he was home. The holiday would be paid for entirely by me. He gets 28 days of paid time off, not including bank holidays. Last year, he lost 12 paid time off days because he didn't take them. We're in the UK. Am I the jerk? You're not a stay-at-home mom. You have a part-time job. Your division of home labor is insanely unbalanced, and all of it falls to you. Of course your husband refuses to let you take a holiday. He'd have to actually lift a finger to parent his own kids if you did. Please, for your own sake, book that holiday and inform him you will be going. Perhaps if he had to do a fraction of everything you'd done for years, he would finally see how unfair he's been to you. Not the jerk. I'm not sure you need a holiday as much as you need couples therapy, to be honest. This sounds like a hugely unfair setup, and no wonder you're feeling so burned out. He's not pulling his weight at all here. Sounds completely draining to be married to a partner who does so little, and apparently is willing to do so little more. Take your kids to your medical test? No thanks. I think you need to address that underlying issue. You're not the jerk for wanting the holiday, but it's a symptom of a much bigger problem. Not the jerk. Just the childcare you're doing is a full-time job with kids those ages. Added to that, you're doing all the housework, all of the cooking. 2 times a month is not frequent. Plus 2 hours of self-employment working from home. It sounds like you have multiple full-time jobs while he has one. Consider pricing out what it would cost to have someone do your work full-time as an experiment. How much would it cost to hire a nanny for 3 kids of those ages full-time? How much would it cost to hire a maid to complete the house chores you do? How much would hiring a lawn service cost? How much would having a home cook or having meals delivered every day cost? Do you walk the dogs outside of the time he does in the morning? If so, add it to the list. Those are the costs of your labor. That's what the 2 of you save by you doing that work. There's a decent possibility those labor costs would cost more money than he makes, and the hours those people would need to work to complete the work you are doing easily total more than the hours he's putting in at the office and walking the dogs in the morning. This doesn't even include whatever you make at the work-from-home job you do after dinner. From someone who has walked a mile in both shoes, you're the jerk. I've been a stay-at-home parent and worked full-time, and the 9-to-5 job is way more exhausting. There's way more downtime in being a stay-at-home parent. Ask anyone who's done both which job they'd prefer to do, and your answers will be the same. He's pulling more of the load than you, and you think you deserve a vacation and he doesn't? You're a bad partner, and your selfishness will lead you straight into divorce. Am I the jerk for canceling a vacation because my wife can't pay her share after helping her adult son and ex-husband? My wife, 44 female, makes quite a bit less than me, 45 male, so our joint expenses are split 70-30. For the most part, things like vacations and where we bought a house are decided based on what she can afford, but there have been several times I've paid in full for vacations to places I really enjoy and wanted to share the experience with her. She has a 23-year-old son from her previous marriage. When she and I got together, I told her I wouldn't mind paying extra for things here and there until her son was 18 and working or in school, so she could take care of him. For the majority of our relationship, he has lived with his father. He decided against college or trade school and hasn't expressed any interest in starting to figure out a plan for the immediate future, let alone his life. He floats from job to job, and his father is pretty much the same since the kid graduated. Therein lies the problem. Every few months, they'll call her for a few $100s here, a few hundred there, $20 this week, $80 the next. Sometimes it's her son calling for help, sometimes it's her ex-husband. This has caused her to be short on funds for our plans, or things she volunteered to cover on more than one occasion. Her reasoning when it's her ex asking is that since their son still lives with him, she has to help. I get that to a point. We were supposed to go on a vacation later this month. Nothing major or fancy, but just some time away. We had agreed to split the cost, and all that was left to pay for were the hotels, rental car, and some reservations. Her ex-husband called needing help getting his car out of impound and getting caught up on rent. Their son hasn't been able to get to work without the car because he doesn't want to ride a bike or take the bus. Almost $5,000 later, they're set up, but my wife told me she can't pay for her portion of our vacation. So I told her I was canceling it. She called me a heartless jerk, that she's just taking care of her son, and we've been arguing over it. But my stance is this. They're both able-bodied adults that keep making a series of life decisions that keep them at a standstill, like quitting jobs over little things, smoking, going out. And her always digging them out of their hole is starting to impact our lives more and more, and I didn't sign up for that. Am I the jerk for canceling our vacation instead of just footing the entire cost myself? To clarify, she contributes 30% of her pay to our joint expenses, bills, utilities, emergency fund, retirement. 70% of her pay she keeps for her personal expenses and to spend or save how she wishes. Dates, vacations, and fun things we choose to do together are budgeted and planned based on what we can afford from our personal funds. Pool that money together, then pay together. Not the jerk. Why are you married to her though, since she clearly puts her ex and grown son before you and your marriage? She's enabling their financial irresponsibility, and that will never change. Seriously, this has been going on for more than 5 years. There's no reason for the ex or their son to change their patterns because she's enabling it. OP, your wife is reasoning that she has to give them money because she's taking care of her son. Can you get her into marriage counseling so she can understand that in fact she isn't helping her son? She's hurting him? He has the capability to work and support himself. He's choosing not to because he doesn't have to with her as his safety net. He's already 23. The window to retrain is closing rapidly, and soon he will be a copy of his dad. Her ex is not her responsibility under any circumstances. If he's careless and gets his car impounded, leading to his son not getting to work, that's an issue to solve between father and son. She does not need to fix this for them. Yes, they'll be mad, and they'll do everything they can to emotionally manipulate her. That's where the counseling comes in. She's going to need help to recognize how these patterns developed and what she's gaining emotionally from them in order for her to find the way to break the pattern. Or this for the rest of your life. Soon the son will get someone pregnant, and then what will she do? Not the jerk, but you need to do something fast. Am I the jerk for removing the fun stuff from my room so my stepsister wouldn't use it? My parents are divorced. I split my time 50-50 between both houses. My mom has been remarried for a number of years now and has 3 stepkids, 2 boys who are younger and a girl the same age as me. She and I got along so badly that the custody times were switched, so we were not in the house at the same time because we could not get along. It all started with her taking my favorite plush animal without permission and ruining it. The eyes were gone and it got soaked, which ruined the color. When I told her she shouldn't have taken it, it became her mission to take my stuff without asking and rarely had any consequences for it because I was told to share. Some of the stuff was fine, but other stuff got ruined too. When my mom told me that she would still sleep in the room after the change in custody when I wasn't there, I knew I did not want the important stuff left at my mom's, so I took it all to my dad's with me. I was 12 at the time. This was only discovered a few weeks ago. Apparently, dear old stepsister has been trying to find the goods for years, but it was when her dad said I should have a game console there that was given by my grandparents and they couldn't find it. They realized what I had done. I was confronted by my mom and her husband, and I admitted it. I told them I didn't trust that girl with my stuff, and I moved it all to safety. My mom asked how stuff is safe when my dad has 2 stepsons at home. I said because they're not allowed to go through my stuff, and because they're good guys who wouldn't do that. My mom's husband was like, "What are you saying about my daughter?" I told him that he's known for years what we think of each other. Mom called my grandparents and asked what they thought of the console going to my dad's. They said they were fine with it. At least it was safe. Mom told me I should have told them my concerns and worked out a better solution than pretty much emptying my room. She also said surely there's stuff I'd be willing to share. I said not with stepsis. Mom told me I wasn't being very fair, and how are we ever going to have a good sister relationship if we don't trust each other? I told Mom we won't because we're not sisters. We will never be sisters, and I don't ever want to be. My mom and her husband think I'm the jerk for doing this, so I gotta ask, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Take everything of yours to your dad's. Take a backpack with clothes to your mom's each week. Don't leave anything there. She may start trying to destroy your clothes next. Am I the jerk for how I reacted when my friend told me what he wrote about in his college essay that got him into the Ivy League? Sam and I have been friends ever since we sat next to each other in 5th grade. We bonded because we both lost a parent when we were really young, but otherwise our backgrounds couldn't be any more different. My dad worked 60 to 70 hours a week to afford a 1-bedroom apartment in a good school district. I wanted to find a part-time job since I saw how exhausted he was every day, but he told me to focus on school instead. Meanwhile, Sam lived with his heart surgeon dad in a 5,000 square foot mansion with a pool and a private movie theater. I won't lie, it did hurt sometimes to see Sam living life on easy mode while my dad and I struggled. This was especially true in spring of 2020 when my dad was panicking about no longer being able to work while Sam was posting pool selfies. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to do the extracurriculars that look good on college applications due to the cost. I'm planning to work part-time, complete my requirements at community college, and finish my degree at a 4-year school. Meanwhile, Sam took private piano lessons and had a family friend who arranged for him to work in her university research lab over the summers. He even helped publish a scientific paper. Sam knew since the 7th or 8th grade that he wanted to follow his dad's footsteps and attend an Ivy League school. Sure, Sam had legacy and connections, but he's also genuinely the hardest working and smartest person I know. Fast forward to last Sunday, Sam invited me and 2 other friends, Amy and Elaine, to his house. He showed us some of the cool stuff that his college sent him before we all went to hang out by the pool. Unsurprisingly, the conversation soon turned towards college and future plans. Amy asked Sam what he wrote about in his college essay. Sam paused for half a second before saying that he mainly wrote about the struggles he had growing up as the child of a single parent. It was just too much. We were hanging out in a multi-million-dollar house with a pool in the backyard, a private movie theater upstairs, a grand piano in the living room, and 2 BMWs plus a Porsche in the garage. I said, "Sam, really? Do you have any self-awareness at all? How can you even say that you struggled when you know how hard my dad and I had it?" I then left because I was getting increasingly angry and didn't want to say something that I'd regret. I've been avoiding Sam at school all week because I'm honestly still upset at him, even though Amy and Elaine have said that Sam really wants to talk to me. You're the jerk. You didn't read his essay. You don't know what he said or his struggles. Either way, it has nothing to do with you. Life isn't a sum-zero game. Just because you struggled more doesn't mean he didn't struggle at all. His essay wasn't about you. It had nothing to do with you. You're the jerk. Sounds like Sam talked about the struggles of growing up with a single parent, and not all of those troubles are necessarily related to his economic status. Although he's in a really good financial situation, it's really presumptuous to assume that you know everything that's going on in his life behind closed doors. A good friend would be happy for Sam and not belittle him just because he doesn't face the same struggles as you. Have some humility and realize that money doesn't equal happiness in life. This is a complicated one. I've been in this situation. I was you and my friend was Sam. I understand how you feel, and it's natural to feel this way. It's true, Sam is privileged and has had a lot of help. You've been through a lot and have worked hard to make the best with what you had. What makes you the jerk is that you're angry that your dad and you have had to work so hard for minimal return, and you're taking it out on someone that has had nothing to do with that. You said Sam is very hardworking. Clearly, you've been friends for so long for a reason. Go talk to your friend. Be honest, apologize, and tell him you've been a jerk. Don't lose a good friend over jealousy. You're not a bad person. You just have to work on not misdirecting your anger. Am I the jerk for embarrassing a guy in my lecture by telling him I'm not going to answer his questions? I, 20 female, had to do a group presentation as part of my end-of-year assignment, and I think it mostly went great. The presentation was 15 minutes minimum with a 15-minute question session afterwards. There's one guy in my course, John, 21, who many people in the course dislike. He's the epitome of an, "well, actually," guy who likes to be the devil's advocate for things that shouldn't have a devil's advocate. He's embarrassed himself more than once by asking ridiculous and pointless questions to our professors that have no relevance, and he's very full of himself. I'm aware that this all may seem harsh, but this has been consistent behavior for the past 2 years, and his attitude has isolated himself from many people in our course who don't want to deal with him. After our presentation, he says he has several questions and proceeds to ask some of the most irrelevant questions. For example, in the presentation, I mentioned that one of my inspirations for the project was a trend in 2020 where grown men, usually 30 to 40-year-olds, would duet girls' TikToks mocking them, from how they liked their coffee to their prom dresses. John's question was, "Don't you think they should get criticism for posting online?" Not only was that not relevant to the project, but you could sense the tension in the room. So many people rolled their eyes, and even his friend gave him a "shut up" nudge. After a few more questions, which were all directed at me, not the other 3 people in the group, I admittedly got annoyed and said, "Listen, mate, I'm not going to answer any more questions from you. You're clearly trying to grasp at straws here." The rest of the questions from our other peers were great and actually of substance, and overall, I feel the whole thing went well, other than that one hiccup. As we were leaving the hall, I hear John complaining to some of his friends, and then I saw him going to talk to our lecturer. I got an email from our professor asking me to join a Teams meeting where I was expected to apologize for embarrassing John, and something about how we were supposed to create a safe space for our fellow peers, and by being rude, I didn't do that. He said if we can sort it out before Thursday, tomorrow, by ourselves, then great. So I sent John a quick message saying I didn't mean to be short with him, but he was clearly asking pointless questions. He just replied, "You didn't have to be a jerk about it," and then blocked me. Am I the jerk? Edit. There were 3 guys and 1 girl, me, in the group, and the professor is a guy also. To everyone asking why I didn't handle this professionally, this is the first time I've done something like this, and I was already nervous because of the grade and assignment aspect, and I get major stage anxiety. This was the first time in my whole life that I've had to do an academic presentation. Not the jerk. Write down the questions John was asking as exactly as possible. Get help from others present if you can. Ask them how they felt about John's questions. Take this to the team's meeting. Say you responded to several of them, though they had no direct relevance to the project. There were only 15 minutes of questions, and you felt that John was not creating a safe space for the others in the room by asking these kinds of questions. Read out your approach to him and his reply. Ask how much time John should have got for those questions, how you should have replied in answer to them. Ask how you could have created a safe space for the whole group. Sit in a broken chair? If you say so. Several years ago, I worked in a group home helping people with mental illness. During the day, we had 2 to 3 staff working at a time. We would work with the clients, and then at the end of our shift, we would log what we did. There was one office with 3 computers in it. One day I came in, and the chair for one of those 3 desks was broken. It was obviously unsafe to sit in it. I asked my coworkers if anyone had reported this to our manager. My coworkers told me that our manager stated the chair was not broken even though it was cracked and leaning to one side. I thought this was so ridiculous, I took a picture of the chair and sent it to my friends, and we all got a good laugh about the definitely not broken chair. The next day I came into work and everything was fine, until it was time to log everything in the computer. There were 3 of us, and now with only 2 usable desks, we had to take turns doing notes while the other just stood there. Our manager came in and asked why one of us was just standing there. We pointed out that the chair was unsafe and we could not use the desk without it. Side note, just before I was hired to work here, I had a serious medical problem in which for 9 months I was unable to eat solid food and had lost so much weight I was only 80 pounds. My recommended weight is 140 for my body type. I was getting better and my manager and coworker were completely unaware that this was the reason for my weight. My boss insisted that the chair could be used. He then told my 2 other coworkers that they were too big and that's why the chair had broke. He stated that he wasn't going to buy any new office furniture until everyone in the office had lost weight because we were costing the company money by damaging the furniture. He explained that I was a healthy weight. I most certainly was not, and everyone should be more like me. To prove that this chair was safe and obesity was the problem, my boss asked me to demonstrate to my coworkers how an ideal employee can use this chair. My boss was expecting me to sit in the chair carefully and cautiously since it really was broken. But I wouldn't be here if that's what happened. I plopped down in the chair, it broke in half instantly, and I fell to the ground. I then pointed out to my boss that company policy requests that he fill out an incident report due to my fall. The next day, my boss calls me into his office and shows me the incident report he filed, in which he told corporate that I had intentionally broken a usable chair. He explained that corporate was angry and had demanded that he take the cost of a new chair out of my paycheck. I mentioned that he forgot to add a few details to his report, which I would be happy to fill corporate in on. The first being the chair was indeed broken, and I had a picture from the day before the incident to prove it was already broken. My boss said I was lying. I showed him the photo, and he went white. I further explained that he forgot to tell them he ordered me to sit in the chair, despite several people mentioning it looked unsafe, and I had 2 witnesses to that. I also mentioned that I felt corporate would love to know that he told his employees they were too big for new chairs, and I had 2 witnesses to that statement. I got up and stated that I would let corporate know now before I forget. My boss panicked and stated that he would not take the cost out of my paycheck and he would order new chairs, which we desperately needed for all of the desks. Don't call my friends names or try to push unhealthy body images. Am I the jerk for walking out of the airport when I saw my husband's mom standing there with her luggage? I, 30 female, don't have the best relationship with my husband's mom. Since day one, she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do and sometimes even copies me, Like one time when she literally dyed her hair purple just like mine, and when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So anyways, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country. Tourism, in other words. Thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged for the trip. My husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mom wanted to come along and threw temper tantrums when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk me into letting her come, even threatened to call the police and make some complaint up to get us to stay if she can't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum, said he wouldn't go if she can't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take his words back and say, "Fine, I will tell her to stop it because we won't take her." Things got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right, like he was looking for someone. I asked him, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area, and first thing I saw was his mom standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me, and I was fuming inside. She and my husband were hugging. That's why I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exit. My husband followed me while shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off the harshest way possible. He tried to say I was overreacting and that his mom was there anyway, and I should let it go and not mess up the trip for us. I told him he and his mom could still go and that I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. Turned out, he booked her a ticket without me even knowing. An hour later, he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out and go home and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mom and it's ridiculous. I refused to fight anymore, but he kept on berating me and then called my family to tell them that the trip was canceled and that it was because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and should have just sucked it up and done my best to enjoy it. Did I really overreact? I don't want to call the divorce card, but divorce. You told your boundaries, you said no. She crossed it. Your husband told you he would tell her no. He lied. He tried to pin you in a corner by not saying anything and bringing her anyways and got upset you refused to be part of his little trap. And then to berate you? He's not a good person. He needs to go. Not the jerk. My Karen ex-wife demands I babysit for her while her husband is in the hospital. Things are complicated, but I'll try to sum it up for you. I, 34 male, met my ex-wife 7 years ago. We dated for 1 year and were married for 2 before we divorced. When we met, she already had 2 kids from her previous relationship, Patrick, who's 13, and Luna, who's 10. We have 1 son together, Tony, who's 5 now. My own relationship with her kids was good, but they never treated me like their dad or something like that, because their dad was involved in their life. Although my wife had primary custody, we all understood I was a stepdad and we were fine with it. My relationship with my ex-wife was good and I thought very loving. Although after our divorce, I realized that she used to talk a lot about her ex-husband, comparing the 2 of us and stuff like that, which is definitely weird, but I didn't notice it at the time. Well, turns out that she really couldn't forget her ex and she ended up cheating with him. This was very hard to process when I found out thanks to one of her friends, and our divorce was not easy. When her family found out about her infidelity, they got very angry at her and went no contact with her. All of this happened 4 years ago. Ever since, her and her husband had 2 more babies together, one who's 3 and the other is a few months old. Her husband got diagnosed with cancer around November of last year. Even after everything they did to me, I still feel sorry for them and their kids. It's a sad situation, which makes me think I'm a jerk. My ex and I have shared custody with our son, but ever since her husband got sick, my son has been staying with me more days, as sometimes my ex's husband has to stay at the hospital and my ex has to help him. I'm okay with this, of course. However, my ex asked me if I can start taking all of her kids home with me when I pick my son up in these kinds of emergencies. I told her that I don't want to do that, and instead she should ask a friend to take care of them or try to pay a babysitter. I pay good childcare, and I know they're not spending all that money on my son at the moment because he's mostly with me. I think it'll be enough to pay for a couple of hours. She told me her friends don't want to help her anymore and her family still doesn't talk to her. I told them they need to figure out a solution. I will only help take care of my son. I feel like a jerk, to be honest, like I'm being too petty. I meant child support. Not the jerk. Sounds like your ex has burned a bunch of bridges and is trying to make you her lifeline because you share a kid. The whole situation is unfortunate, but it isn't your responsibility to help her. You're right about her being able to use the money you pay for child support to pay for care for her other kids. But even without that, it would still not be your responsibility. You sound like a caring person and she knows how to make you feel guilty, but it's not wrong for you to refuse to help. Why should you feel like a jerk when you don't want to take care of 5 kids, aged 0 to 13, instead of just 1? That's a big responsibility. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Your ex is. Cheated with her ex gets sick and wants you to take care of her kids with ex? That is completely disrespectful to you. Take care of your kid. In fact, get full custody and tell her to buzz off. Am I the jerk for making my wife cry because she threw my birthday party wrong? My wife is a lovely person whom I love very much, and we have a strong relationship. She is, however, agreed by all parties, very emotional and prone to tears. That's fine. I knew what I was signing up for. It's just relevant context. Recently, I had a birthday. My wife asked what I wanted to do for it. I said that I would really like to just have a quiet day, mostly at home. Wake up late, have coffee, play some video games, and the 2 of us could go for dinner. If we needed to do anything else, we could get a massage. She tends to prefer parties and big events, while I like to relax. If she just got dinner reservations somewhere low-key and maybe even wore something nice, that would be perfect. I wouldn't want anything else. That can be hard for her to understand, I think because it's so different from her preferences. So she set up a big party. She told me the morning of that she had invited some people over to celebrate. I said, "Oh, okay, that's not what I was expecting. Who's coming?" I think she could tell that I was a little disappointed because she started to get kind of defensive, saying it's just a few of our friends and they want to be with me on my birthday, etc. And that's fine, it's not a big deal. It isn't like I hate parties or our friends, so I said okay and we went about the day. Some friends and a couple of family members started arriving around noon and people stayed until about 6 p.m. It was nice to see people, no major issues, just not what I would have chosen for a big day off type of thing. I tend to like to relax and re-energize on weekends and find events like that, when I'm in the center of attention, very draining. My wife seemed a little on edge though, and that night while we were cleaning up, she asked how my birthday was. I said it was pretty good, with a little bit of a shrug. Admittedly, that wasn't the best thing to say, but I don't like to be dishonest. It was fine, but not spectacular. She got really upset and burst into tears, telling me she had worked hard on it, and it's so challenging when I won't participate or tell her what I want. I said that it's okay, it's not a big deal or worth being so upset over, and I appreciated the effort she went to, and it was nice to see people. But I felt like I had been pretty clear about what my preference would have been, and it seemed like she didn't listen to me. That made her even more upset, and she said she couldn't believe she did so much for me, and instead of thanking her, I made her cry. I had thanked her earlier. The conversation didn't make much progress from there that night, but it still feels like a sore spot for us. She's been annoyed with me the past few days for ruining my birthday. I don't want to be ungrateful, but don't really feel like I should be apologizing here. Am I just being stubborn? Not the jerk. You did clearly say what you wanted. She did not listen. You weren't nasty about it either, just sincere. I hate it when people want to be praised for something that was unasked for. I think you have nothing to apologize for. Not the jerk. Your wife made your birthday about her. You told her clearly what you wanted. She chose to do what she wanted, then she was upset because you didn't like it. She sounds exhausting. As someone who cries easily, I hate it when people say anytime a woman cries, she's being manipulative. That being said, your wife sounds extremely manipulative. First, you did tell her what you wanted, in a lot of detail. Second, you didn't make her cry. She did that on her own. If the issue is truly that she cries easily, she should be mature enough to not blame others for that. Third, she's the one who made the mistake, but you're the one getting punished? Yeah, she can get out of here with that mess. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for helping my niece pay for her dream degree against her parents' wishes? I'm 48, male. My niece, Ella, who's 17, will soon be in her senior year and plans to study history in university. She's a good student and should definitely get in her safety school at least. My sister and brother-in-law, both 46, are not happy with her choice. They want her to get a degree that will lead to a good job opportunity, like science or engineering. I make mid to high 6 figures, and I'm a single father, widower, to one daughter who's 15. I also am a big believer of doing what you love because life is short. I told Ella that if she can't get a scholarship, I'll provide her with financial aid during university, and she can pay me back whenever. She's now working on her early admissions and is doing volunteer work while cutting her usual summer job hours at the local amusement park in half. My niece's parents called me a huge jerk for doing this. They said I don't understand their struggle. My brother-in-law studied liberal arts and works in HR for a medium-sized company, and my sister has an associate's degree and is currently a manager at a chain restaurant. They're doing okay, but they're not comfortable. They said the only reason I get to throw my money around is because I'm an engineer and my late wife was a pharmacist. We got useful degrees that helped us get ahead in life. They said if I thought a degree that won't make money is so great, maybe I should pull my daughter out of the gifted science program she's in at her school. I told them I know plenty of people who studied various different degrees that are successful, but they said the successful ones are far in between. They also said they don't want Ella to set a bad example for her brother, Ben, who's 14, who expressed interest in being a veterinarian. I told them I'll support Ella's decision no matter what, and if she's doing what makes her happy, that shouldn't be a bad example, and Ben is too young to settle his mind on anything. I then threw them out of my house. Still, I wonder if I'm the jerk here. Edit. I only said for her to pay me back, only to make sure she doesn't waste her opportunities. I intend to make a gift of it upon her graduation. Not the jerk. Your niece's parents are understandably concerned about her future. However, they are using their life experiences to try to force your niece onto a path they wish they had taken. But it's a path she doesn't want to take. Her dreams are important. It's extremely generous of you to do what you're doing. Stick to your guns. Not the jerk. Your brother and sister need to stop blaming their degree choices on their careers and earnings. I did an English degree and now in my 30s currently earn $50,000, which in the UK is not bad at all. The history degree would not be at all useless. She will gain a lot of skills from this, and the fact that she's already working so hard towards this strongly suggests she could be one of the successful graduates. Not the jerk. I can't shake the thought that they're counting on a successful daughter to provide their retirements. And if the son can be dissuaded from becoming a DVM because his sister majored in history, he hasn't got the commitment needed to get through vet school. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his niece's parents? Please let us know. There's nothing wrong with useless college degrees. Some of the best baristas I've ever known have them. Karen, do you realize how many people you're gonna upset by joking like that? Who said I was joking, Reddit boy? Am I the jerk for telling a vegan he could have a cookie? Not too long ago, my coworker friend made cookies, but she had to work off-site that day and asked me to distribute them to our friend group. I, 32 female, had the cookies sitting on my desk when one of our friends popped in to say hi. He's 60 plus, male, asked what the cookies were for, and I explained so-and-so had made them and that I was planning on passing them out at lunch. This particular friend eats mostly a vegan diet due to health issues, but semi-regularly eats milk, chocolate, chili peppers, and fish sauce, and several other questionably vegan items. He also cheats when he travels abroad because many cultures don't understand the restrictions of his diet. Anyway, he asked me if he would be allowed to have a cookie, to which I immediately said, sure. He ate the cookie and said it was good. The next day, the friend who made the cookies asked how they went over. I said everyone liked them and listed the people who had one. She was surprised that our vegan friend had one, but I told her that he's flexible with occasional treats. Later, she joked to him that she was disillusioned about his diet and realized she didn't have to worry so much about making things he'd be able to eat. He then turned around and scolded me, saying, I asked you if they were vegan. I responded with, you absolutely did not. He said that by asking if they were something he could have, he was obviously asking if they were made with animal products. I told him that I answered the question as he asked it, and it never occurred to me that he wanted to know about the ingredients. He acted like I was being deliberately obtuse, and so I told him that his diet is not my responsibility and that he needs to directly ask and not assume that people will guess. He was upset with me, and I ended up getting mad at him and refused to apologize. So, am I the jerk? Edit for info. It honestly didn't occur to me that that's what he was asking. I wasn't trying to be pedantic. Maybe I was naive. I know that he's flexible because I have previously gifted him a box of chocolate that I know he likes that contains milk, and he ate them. I guess I could try to be more considerate in the future, but to be honest, having to guess people's meaning is a pet peeve of mine. Just tell me what you want. I'm not a mind reader. Not the jerk. Standard cookies are made with butter and eggs. He should be an adult and take responsibility for his diet, and the way he asked is absolutely how you interpreted it. He was deflecting because he got called out by the other coworker who made them. Not the jerk. Am I allowed to have one? And this case comes across as, The cookies weren't intended for me, but I would like one anyway. Your friend worded his question poorly, and while his cheats are his own business, they do create a scenario where you could reasonably expect that he's not worried if the cookies are vegan. He needs to be responsible for his own diet and his own poor choice of words in this scenario. Oh, look, a vegan whose brain doesn't work right. What a surprise. Oh, you're on a roll today, aren't you? You know we're probably going to lose some vegan subscribers for that, right? Well, maybe we'll gain some non-vegan subscribers and even things out. You are so rude. Am I the jerk for wanting a separate Christmas without my sister's kids? I, male 28, have several siblings all about my age. Only my youngest sister, who's female 25, has kids, of which she has 5 of. I see nothing wrong with my sister wanting to be a mom, and I love my nieces and nephews, but I can't be around them much. I have a medical condition that can cause seizures when I'm overstimulated, and generally messes me up if I can't leave to decompress. When we visit our parents for the holidays, I'll hang out with my other siblings and their spouses. Then when my sister shows up with her husband, I'll greet them, visit for a minute, then put in my headphones and go somewhere else when noise picks up. If it was a normal level of chaos, it might even be okay. I'm pretty fine with the adults laughing and talking, but she'll bring loud toys, turn on Cocoa Melon, and let the kids run wild. I can't handle it for too long without having to bail, and asking for things to be quieter is usually met with a, "Ha! Try living with this." Not very productive. It sucks getting to visit with my family for maybe 2 hours and then basically having to leave the party. I've tried catching up with people away from the group, but my sister takes it personally and keeps asking why I don't want to talk to her and her husband. She knows about the seizures. I just think something isn't clicking in her brain, even though I keep explaining why I can't stick around. Last year we had bad weather, and my sister couldn't drive from out of state to come to the Christmas party. Most of us were already at our parents' place when she texted, so we just had the party anyway and planned a follow-up for them in a couple of weeks. It ended up being a blast. I actually got to stay for the whole thing. I didn't mind a bit that I had to hang out in the kitchen for most of the second party. I got the fun out of my system and was just happy to see my sister and meet her new baby. When my sister found out that we basically did Christmas without her, she was understandably upset. She and her kids still had presents to open and we had a nice lunch, but there wasn't the same adult party she had hoped she could join. Granted, her joining the adults was her unleashing her kids and getting tipsy while our parents struggled to keep them from destroying their house. But I get it. Getting left out sucks. That being said, I loved having 2 parties, and I asked my dad about doing this every year. While he also enjoyed our party, we both agreed that splitting up Christmas would really upset my sister. Living out of state with that many kids, it's basically impossible for her to do both parties. We tried to think of other options, but most of us spend New Year with our spouses, and my sister would be furious if she found out we didn't invite her to a non-holiday family party. I just don't think it's fair that I practically have to skip Christmas half the time because she has so many rowdy kids. So Reddit, am I the jerk for wanting a separate party? Is there another solution I'm not seeing? Not the jerk. If she wants to be included, her kids shouldn't be destroying the house and making work for everyone else. If that's not possible, do the 2 parties till her kids are old enough to learn manners and follow rules. Absolutely not the jerk. This might be a dreadful suggestion, but has your sister ever actually witnessed a seizure? It might be worth engineering one when she's around so she can see how awful they are. I have similar health issues, meltdowns, also a really dodgy gut, and my brother and his wife honestly didn't realize just how bad they were until they saw both firsthand. It made them a lot more accommodating. However, I realize it's an extreme suggestion, and you may need to enroll the rest of your family to support you. OP. I think if it were possible for her to see one in private, it might convince her that they are a real problem. But her kids are at an age where I think it would be terrifying for them to see. If their uncle just dropped and started short-circuiting, I'm worried it would be pandemonium. Maybe if things get to an extreme, it might be something to consider, but I'd like to avoid it if I can. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my Neopets account to my niece? Okay, so I'm upset and confused, and I told my sister and brother-in-law I would post here to settle this argument, so they will be seen in reading this. For those who don't know, Neopets is a virtual pet game site that was really popular around the late 90s and early 2000s. It kind of died a bit for a while, but has recently started to get popular again. I've been playing it for years. My account is 18 years old, and it has the stats to reflect that. Pets, avatars, stamps, gallery, trophies, etc. If you don't play, it may not mean a lot, and not to brag, but I have a rather impressive account due to the fact that I've been playing it for so long. I, 34 female, have no kids. Not child-free, just don't have any. My sister, 32, female, and brother-in-law, 34, male, have a daughter who's 11, who's been very sickly all of her life. I'll not go into exactly what's wrong with her, but she's been in and out of hospitals a lot in her young life and recently had to go back in again for a few weeks. I recently learned that she's been playing Neopets for a few months to help pass the time when she's not feeling well. She's really gotten into it, and from what my sister says, talks about it a lot. She was excited to learn I also play, and we talked about it when I visited her. I looked up her account and gifted her a bunch of stuff. Expensive stuff that would be hard for a newer account to get. In-game stuff using in-game money, which can be kind of hard to earn in large amounts. Anyway, long story short, she asked how I can afford the stuff I sent her. It was worth millions of points, and how I have all the stuff that my account has. I explained to her that I had been playing for 18 years, did every plot and event, etc. Well, apparently she got upset at the huge difference between our two accounts and asked for more stuff. When I told her no, she started crying to my sister and brother-in-law about it. My brother-in-law came over and asked if I could gift my account to my niece for her upcoming birthday, which she has to spend in the hospital. Said it would mean the world to her. I said no. I've had this account since before she was born, before we even met my brother-in-law. I don't want to get rid of it. I still play on it literally every day. Well, he got mad and tried guilt-tripping me. I'm an adult and she's a kid, and it would make her happy in a rough time in her life. I'm happy to help her learn the tricks and trades of the game, but I'm not giving away my account. He tried to buy it off me, but I still said no. Now he's super upset and got my sister and my parents on their side. I'm being hounded every day for this and being called a jerk because it's all my niece will talk about and she really wants it. I feel bad because she's just a kid in the hospital and guilty for not giving it to her. I offered to send a bunch of stuff to her account again, but she wants my stats too, so that she's not treated like a newbie who doesn't know anything by other players too. I feel guilty for this, but I want to keep my account. Am I the jerk? You've been playing for 18 years. It obviously means a lot to you. I'm sorry for your sister and brother-in-law that their kid is sick, but what a bunch of entitled jerks to insist you just give these 18 years of your life up for your niece. Her parents are obviously used to giving in to her every whim. They should start parenting and teach her that the world doesn't revolve around her. Not the jerk. And please don't give her your account. She should learn to work for something instead of having it handed over because she wants it. Am I the jerk for babysitting my friend's kid and refusing to leave when his girlfriend asked me to? So I, 22 female, have a friend, 25 male, who asked me to look after his son, who's 4, for a couple of hours. He said he'd pay me 10 euros an hour, so I accepted. While babysitting his son, his girlfriend, who's 25, came over and was surprised to see me there. She asked what I was doing here, and I told her that I was here to watch his son. She then asked if it was like a last-minute thing because his mother canceled. I said no. He asked me about a week ago, but I don't know if he previously asked his mom. She said that's impossible because not even 2 days ago, he told her that the mother would be watching his son. So I was like, well, the only thing I know is that he asked me to babysit, said he'd pay me, so I accepted. She got mad and asked if there was something between him and I. I denied, repeated that I'm only here to babysit and that's it. She said that since I knew he was in a relationship, I should have declined. So I said, listen, I'm sorry he lied to you, but I'm only here to get paid. She said that nobody accepts to look over someone else's kid only to get paid. I said, yes, people who want to get paid do. She said that I was playing with her, that if I was respectful of their relationship, I'd leave. I refused. I told her if she's so mad, then she should call her boyfriend and demand an explanation, but I was staying here to do what I was paid to do. She left, and I didn't hear from her again until recently. She texted me saying that I would never babysit for her boyfriend again, and that he agreed with her on it. I didn't reply because I really don't care. I'm not even that close to the guy, and like I said, I only wanted to get paid. I was paid, and that's it. But when I talked about it to my mom and sister, they said that I should have left when she asked me to avoid any drama between them. I said that's not my problem. I was asked to watch over his son, and I accepted. If her boyfriend decided to lie to her about it, it was not my fault. But now I'm not really sure, and I just want to know. Am I the jerk for babysitting my friend's son and refusing to leave when his girlfriend asked me to? Edit. I texted him about what she sent me to make sure he knew. I'm currently waiting on an answer. Edit. He saw it, but he didn't reply. I tried another text, but I doubt it'll work either, so I guess that's it. I saw that it made a few people confused. She's not the mother, she's just his girlfriend. It won't let me post an update, but long story short, he apologized for what happened with his girlfriend, said he lied because he knew she would have been jealous. He confirmed he knew about the text and did agree with it. I said okay, told him to lose my number, and that his girlfriend should do the same. I hung up, and that was it. Not the jerk. Imagine being so insecure in your relationship that you deny the existence of babysitters. Not the jerk, and I would not have left either. You were asked to be in charge of his son's safety and well-being. That doesn't get passed off to some random girlfriend because she demands it. Your responsibility to the kid ends when the parent takes back the responsibility. Am I the jerk for arguing with my husband's doctor and acting like a Karen? My husband has a sore foot. No injury or medical condition that would explain the pain, but he hasn't been able to walk properly for about a week. Being the absolute pain in my butt that he is, he's refused to go to the doctor until today. Apparently, he preferred to just complain to me. It's gotten progressively more swollen looking, and today it's turned a funny color, and he can't put any weight on it. So I called our GP, who has sent him to the walk-in clinic at our local hospital. We finally get seen, and the doctor refused to even examine it. Told him without even looking at the foot that it was just a sprain, and he wasn't going to prescribe him any painkillers, so not to ask. Then he started demonstrating some kind of exercises that involved going up and down on tiptoes and flexing the toes. I asked if he would please just look at it, because it's nearly gone black in some spots and looks similar to how my wrist looked when I broke it a few years ago. He huffed at me and asked where my medical degree was from. I demanded to see another doctor or his senior. I was the jerk here because it wasn't me being treated, so I get that he thought I was pushy. Husband would have accepted the doctor's instructions without any questions about actually needing to be examined. Doctor left, and we heard him outside the cubicle telling the senior doctor that they have a confrontational spouse who thinks her WebMD searching qualifies her to instruct real doctors on how to practice medicine. He also states that he suspects my husband of exaggeration to get meds. By the time the other doctor arrives, I'm seething, and I lay out exactly what went on and explained I only want someone to look at the foot before sending us away. He looks, cue x-rays, an MRI, the good painkillers, and a walking boot cast thing with potential to need surgery because he's got 7 stress fractures in that foot, probably from running. Admittedly, worse than they needed to be because he didn't get any treatment when it first started to hurt. Second doctor and someone from the hospital admin came and apologized for the first doctor and asked if we want to make a formal complaint. So I did, because the outcome of his not listening to the patient or family could have been worse. Husband did not. Husband said later that the first doctor may get sacked because of me complaining, and I should have just left it because no real harm was done. Was I the jerk for complaining? I don't usually have Karen tendencies, but he was just so patronizing and dismissive, and I kept thinking, what if it was a young mother with a sick baby and he dismissed it? Not everyone would stand their ground, and there could be serious consequences. Edit. Thank you for all the comments and awards. I did not expect this to go as mental as it did. I've shown hubby the post, and he's starting to realize how serious it could have been and is going to email the admin guy we saw this afternoon. He gave us his contact details for my complaint. He's also agreed that delaying treatment the way he did was incredibly stupid and has decided to take up the counseling referral with a GP, so he will be less useful in future medical situations. Thankfully, we were eventually given appropriate treatment, and hopefully the follow-up will be positive. I'll stick an update on here if anything interesting to report. Once again, thanks for setting my mind at ease and sharing your opinions. Not the jerk. You were right to be insistent. The doctor was not doing his job. You did what you had to do. I'm going to add that your husband is a huge jerk here too. Not taking care of your health and making yourself a burden on your spouse is downright selfish. He needs a stern talking to. At the very least, you need to stop enabling him. In the future, stop dealing with these instances. If he dares complain, call him out on the need to take care of himself and not to be a burden to you. OP. I accept that my husband should have sought help much earlier, but he wasn't actually being a burden apart from complaining. Long and tedious background, but he actually has a genuine fear of hospitals, so tends to either avoid them, or if he's there, he'll accept whatever is said to him in order to get out as fast as possible. He definitely has his jerk moments, but where hospitals are concerned, he is genuinely in need of an advocate, which is what I try to be. Your husband's mental health may not be his fault, but it is his responsibility. He needs to get a handle of this. He doesn't get to walk around for days on a foot with fractures and not take care of it. OP. I completely agree. However, that's a battle for another day. A day when I'm able to remain calm and discuss it rationally, and not while I'm riled up and emotional about what could have happened. Also not the best idea whilst I'm slightly peeved at what I'm going to have to actually run around at. Also not the best idea whilst I'm slightly peeved that I'm going to have to actually run around after him and his gimpy foot now. Not the jerk. Honestly, the doctor should be fired. He totally dismissed yours and your husband's concerns. Progressive foot pain getting worse over time, discoloration of the skin, cannot bear weight on the foot, husband is a runner. I think most medical personnel and laymen would agree that an actual physical examination of the foot was in order, which this guy didn't even bother to do. You were right to ask for another doctor. Good luck to your husband, and I hope his healing goes well. I don't work here, but now you get to come to my work. I'm a correctional officer and I work nights. After work, I normally just go home and sleep to get ready for my next 12-hour shift. However, on my days off, I take the time to do chores and housework. On this day, I did not have the night off, so I get done what I could before going to bed. So I went home and picked up my wife and kiddos to go grocery shopping. We get to the store and start doing the usual. A lady comes up to me and my family and starts asking for directions to items. Some I know and some I don't, so I tell her where the things I know are and I apologize for the things I don't. Now, mind you, I'm in full uniform. Taser cross draw, cuffs on each hip, fogger on left thigh, spray, and all the other items I use at work. On top of all that, I smell of peppers, sweat, mold, and rust as the facility I work at is old and moist. She seems upset but walks away. We continue shopping, and after a while, we meet up with the lady and she spots us and comes down, but this time she's upset. She starts screaming that I'm the worst employee ever and I should be fired for not helping. She continues on about how I should be catching shoplifters or back watching the cameras instead of flirting with this lady. Yeah, she's one of those. I interrupt her rant and I said the usual words of, "I don't work here." She of course fails to hear them as this is the usual on this sub, and she continues her rant, yelling and screaming that she picked me to help her because I'm the asset protection and I should know where everything is. I ask my wife to take the kids and find a manager for this Karen. The lady, from now on known as Karen, is none too pleased to hear her secret identity outed and increases her volume. I try to explain to Karen that I'm a jailer, not loss prevention at a grocery store. I tell her to go buzz off and find someone that actually works here. I then turn my back and start to walk away when I'm nailed in the back of the head and I fall forward in a full face plant. I'm hurting, dazed, and I can feel glass all around me. I roll onto my back and feel around. It's pasta sauce. This jerk just brained me with pasta sauce. She's still yelling and screaming and raising another jar to throw. I grab my taser, aim, and pop. Down she goes. Hard. I get up, I stumble over, I flip her around and cuff her. She's out like a light. My guess is the fall. I then sit back down and take an inventory of myself. I'm hurt pretty badly from my head, but I seem to be all right. My wife, the customers, and management show up as I'm checking over Karen. I pulled my med kit off the back of my belt to get to the smelling salts. I then tell them to call 911 and I continue checking on Karen. She's awake, dazed, and blissfully quiet. The rest goes as expected. The police arrive, they question me, question her, watch the cameras, and I refuse medical treatment, but I do press charges, as my wife is a boss. I say that with reverence. She's medically trained and will take good care of me. I go home. She asked if I wanted staples or glue. I chose glue. She glues my head and we take a shower, go to sleep, and she wakes me up from time to time, which I know isn't the best idea. But hey, a few days later I'm writing this, so I ended up alright. I get a call a couple hours before my shift ordering me to come in early to talk to rank. Dreading this, I follow my orders and get up, shaved, showered, and dressed. I go in and have to explain the whole thing again and again. Then they show me the video from the store. It's exactly as I explained, though I did note she could throw far better than I could have dreamed. They order me not to wear my uniform outside of work and tell me I'll be working in booking tonight. I'm not very good at booking, but look forward to the training and activity of it as the rest of the facility is slow and boring. 11 p.m. rolls around, and who do I see being escorted into booking but Karen? I start to talk, but my sergeant taps me and hushes me. He talks to the deputy bringing her in, and they start doing the paperwork while I watch and try to learn as much as possible. She gets charged. Now Karen gets to live at my workplace. I don't get to work in the female zones, but the booking process was fun, though I wasn't allowed to do anything but watch. After she's booked, I'm told to report to another zone, and I end up finishing the night. Now for the past few days, pasta jokes have been in abundance, and her nickname is Pasta Lady. Her court date isn't for a while, and she's reportedly not getting along with the other inmates. My Karen wife loses it over the Mother's Day card I gave her. My wife told me yesterday, all I want for Mother's Day is to have the day completely off. I don't need or want anything else. I confirmed with her multiple times, and then I started planning a day for my 2 boys and I. Today comes by. I intercept my oldest son at 7 a.m. before he comes into our room. We go downstairs to watch his favorite morning show and to eat breakfast. The moment I heard my youngest wake up, I got him out of his crib and took him downstairs. We finished breakfast, and I had them start working on handmade cards for my wife. When I hear her get up, we surprise her with the cards from the kids. Here's where things went wrong. My wife asks me, "Did you write me anything?" I told her I was working on it, but wasn't done yet. I had been busy with the kids and wanted to finish it up. She was not happy. I quickly finished it up and sent it to her. A note on this: I'm not a very well-spoken person. I have a hard time putting my thoughts together, so I used Google to turn my thoughts into a letter. She knows I struggle in this area. I come inside and she tells me that I plagiarized and used Google for her letter. I told her I absolutely did, but that the main points were mine. I then sent her the original, and she scoffed and said, "That's it?" So Reddit, am I the jerk for using Google to make myself sound more elegant? Am I the jerk for not writing enough in my original? Final thought. She told me all she wanted was a day off. She is still getting that and is currently out with all of her girlfriends. Quick edit. Had an awesome day with my boys. Wife was nowhere to be found for most of it, and I have to say, it's the best day we, my boys and I, have had in a while. Edit 2. I just saw a post on Facebook about how she's had an awesome day with her boys. She's still out with her girlfriends getting her nails and hair done. Edit 3. We're all in bed now. Wife just got home and asked me if I still planned on working out tonight. I straight up told her I was exhausted and going to bed. She's now not talking to me. I'm so done with her attitude and the drama that she brings to the table. You didn't do anything until the day of. Like, you found out what she wanted yesterday. Of course she told you she didn't want anything. If someone asks the day before, you know they didn't do anything yet and won't have anything ready. Your excuse for not having a card for her was because you hadn't done it yet because of the kids. That would not have been a problem if you'd actually done it before. You waited until the day of. The reason she's going off is because she realized yesterday during your talk that you didn't do anything in advance. She was going in disappointed already. Everyone sucks here, but honestly, I see why she started off in a bad mood. You set the bar exceptionally low by only talking to her the day before and doing nothing in advance. Everyone sucks here. Your wife shouldn't expect you to read her mind that she wants a card when she explicitly said something else, and you were going to give that to her. On the other hand, Mother's Day cards are kind of a given, and you didn't write anything until the day of. You should have had the foresight to realize you'd be busy with the kids on that day and made some effort to put something together beforehand. This is pretty basic planning. You're the jerk. Why didn't you write the card the day before so it was ready to go? And Googling what to write sounds lazy. She just wanted you to put in the effort to give her a heartfelt card on time. She doesn't sound ungrateful. She sounds fed up and not appreciated enough for you to make sufficient effort. Not the jerk. Why are men still getting married in America? Do you realize how many countries there are where you can find a wife who won't act like this, who will respect you and not act like a spoiled, emotionally stunted brat? Sweet, kind, loving people who want to have a mutually respectful and loving marriage are plentiful, but you will have to search overseas to find them. That's what I did 10 years ago, and I now have a beautiful family of my own. My friends laughed at me when I left the States, but they're all divorced now and on their second or third marriages. In life, it's never a bad idea to go where you're wanted and where you'll be treated right. Am I the jerk for embarrassing my cousin and getting us kicked out of a restaurant? I, female 25, don't have kids yet. I never really wanted them growing up, but I figure I'll eventually have kids in the future once I get my life together. My cousin, Sarah, who's 29, has 2 badly behaved kids from a previous relationship and a newborn baby with her boyfriend, MJ, who's 40. Last night, my mother, sister, Sarah, and I went to a sushi restaurant, and this was my first time having sushi. After we ordered, I had a hard time using the chopsticks. My cousin started obnoxiously laughing. The waiter came over and asked me if I wanted training wheels, which is a little plastic item that attaches to the chopsticks and it helps you hold them in place. My cousin laughed and said, "Sorry about her. She constantly embarrasses herself and us." I just gave her the side eye and put the training wheels on. When it was time to order dessert, her boyfriend MJ finally joined us, claiming that he was busy. She went on to tell him how stupid I was for not knowing how to use chopsticks and how the waiters and everyone around now knows that I'm an embarrassment. My mom asked her what her problem was, and she goes on a rant about how I'm so embarrassing and it's no wonder I'm jealous of her being a mother and no one wants to have kids with me. I finally had enough. I said, "I don't have kids because I don't want them to come out like your rude little jerks, and you're calling me an embarrassment? Didn't MJ just have a baby on you with his wife? Your baby literally has a sibling a week apart from her. You probably learned how to use chopsticks by having his wife's leftovers." I guess when she was attacking me, it was fine because everyone turned on me. It got so loud that management had to get involved. Sarah was screaming and crying, MJ was yelling at me, and my mom and sister were going off on me for being mean. Management brought the bill and told us to please pay it and leave. My mom paid the entire bill, but my sister said I'm a jerk for embarrassing Sarah and getting us kicked out, and how she's probably going through postpartum depression. Now, I don't know if I went too far, seeing as she's probably going through some post-baby stress. Am I the jerk? Everyone sucks here. My goodness, what a dreadful scene. I feel awful for the other diners, many of whom were probably honoring Mother's Day a night early if you're in the US. You should probably give some real consideration to avoiding being in public with these people. Maybe avoid them altogether. They don't sound like they bring anything good to your life. Oh, and totally not the point, but chopsticks are super easy once you have the hang of them. There's a learning curve, but then all of a sudden, you know how. Either go out with nicer people who will coach you instead of harassing you, or fiddle with it at home. Even if it doesn't come up often, it's one of those things that's nice to be able to do confidently. Edit. I can't approve of the airing of dirty laundry, but I can and do applaud your line about how she learned to use the chopsticks. Magnificently brutal. Am I the jerk for refusing to help cook on Mother's Day? On Thursday, my dad, 42 male, took me, 18 male, to help pick out a frame for my mom's Mother's Day gift, which was a frame that said, "Mom, you are the piece that holds us together," with puzzle pieces beneath it with our names on it. After 2 hours of shopping, we got what we needed, and I picked out a frame for us to use. My brother, who's 4, received a little credit since he was little, and my other brother, who's 15, did as well, though he didn't help. He just said whether or not it looked good. On Friday, the gift was complete, so we showed it to Mom that evening, and she liked it. We took a picture with it as well. We had a garage sale on Saturday, but we all did our own thing afterward. That evening, I played with a few online friends and decided to stay up late since it was the weekend and we didn't have plans on Sunday. I decided to go to bed around 2:30 a.m. This morning, Sunday, my dad opens my door at 9:05 a.m., which wakes me up. He asks me to help cook the eggs for Mother's Day. I explained to him that I was trying to sleep because I stayed up late and didn't know we planned to make breakfast beforehand so that I wouldn't stay up late. Dad insists that I help with the eggs or the waffles, but I reiterated that I'm still trying to sleep because I stayed up late. He said I would help with the eggs and said a pan was out and that I had 6 minutes and started closing the door. I quickly tried to say that I had already told him. At around 9:45 a.m., he came in again while I was in bed asleep. The opening of the door woke me up and he said, "How do you think that'll make her feel, hearing that you refused to help make her breakfast?" I replied that I had already helped with her Mother's Day gift, and he said something along the lines that he was the one who had the idea and actually built it, and that helping with breakfast is something I can have more control over. I replied, "Got it. I wasn't part of her gift." After some back and forth, he closed the door a little. It wasn't fully closed, and left to go continue cooking. At around 10:15 a.m., breakfast was ready, and I was asleep. He came to my door, slammed it shut, and walked towards the kitchen, going off about me, but he didn't really call me any names from what I heard. I'm not sure what he said, but I think it's related to doing what I wanted and not what the household needed. I feel like he failed to communicate his plans, and that if he had told me he intended on making breakfast the next morning for Mother's Day, even after her gift, it would have helped me to know not to stay up late under the impression that we finished Mother's Day and that we had nothing planned. Am I the jerk? Edit. Based on all your comments, I acknowledge that I messed up. I should have gotten up to help with breakfast, but I didn't, and I'm ashamed that I didn't do better. I have decided to coordinate dinner, and now I'm making dinner for Mom. It's something nice, and I'm sure she'll love it. Thank you for all of your perspectives and taking time out of your day to respond to my mess up. This is a You're the Jerk. Mother's Day is about your mom, and she's barely in the post. You were asked to make her breakfast on the one day of the year that she celebrated. You should absolutely have done it. It's not about your dad's behavior or how you chose a photo frame, buddy. It's about being a grateful son. You're the jerk. You could have cooked breakfast for your mom. You slept for 6 hours and could have slept the rest of the day after making breakfast if you were so tired. How often do you think your mom was tired when she got up to make breakfast for you? Info. You say that you helped to pick out the present for your mom. Did you just pick out the present, or did you also pay for it? You're the jerk. How many days do you think your mom got up and took care of y'all on no sleep? This whole post is whining about how you had to do a bunch of stuff for your mom and who got credit and blah blah blah. Dude, I bet your mom does so much for y'all. Instead of waking up and making her eggs, you ticked off your dad, and now you're on Reddit upsetting other moms on Mother's Day. Over eggs. Get some perspective beyond yourself. It will do you well. I guess Mother's Day is the one day of the year the Reddit people actually side with people's moms. Am I the jerk for shaming my mother about not taking care of our kids? My sister just had her first kid. I have 2 kids who are 6 and 9. My mother was never a hands-on grandma, which is completely fine. I learned my lesson early on about asking her to babysit. She would either tell me yes and cancel at the last minute, or get mad at me for even asking. Now, this by itself wouldn't be a huge deal. However, my mother was the kind of mother who would drop us off at our grandparents all the time. Holidays, we'd get dropped off the second day off and picked up 3 days before school started. We spent every weekend with them. Grandma would pick us up from school and make us lunch. And besides that, every time one of us asked her to babysit, she said, "I already raised my kids." Even if we were just asking her to keep an eye on the kid while we hopped to the store. So it really is the hypocrisy that gets me. Not her not babysitting. I couldn't care less about that. So my sister had her first kid about 4 months ago. We had a family dinner on Friday where everyone got to meet the baby. So we were all mingling, and my sister asked Mom at one point if she could watch the baby on Friday for 1 hour so she could pick up her mother-in-law from the airport. My mom started to say her usual sentence, and my brothers and I jumped in and finished the sentence with her and laughed. My brother then offered to watch the baby. He thought it was over, but Mom was offended and went on a long rant about disrespect. My sister was confused and said, "I just thought you might want to bond with your granddaughter." To which I said, "She didn't even raise us. What makes you think she wants to spend time with our kids?" I admit I was mad because she was acting like she was that martyr who never had time for herself, when she literally never had us, and when she did, my older brother and I took care of everything in the house, including childcare and house stuff. Obviously, my mother got furious, saying that I was ungrateful. My older brother intervened and said that we weren't ungrateful, but we couldn't ignore the matter of fact. The fight escalated and my mother stormed off. My father called us and told us that it was entitled to shame Mom for not babysitting. Are we the jerks? Edit. My father is not mentioned because the story is not about him, and it doesn't make sense to talk about him. There's more to the story with him, of course, but this story was about an interaction with us and our mom. The only involvement our father had was the short call at the end. That's why he isn't mentioned much. Not the jerk. As long as it's okay for people to not be natural caregivers, it is not to be a non-caregiver and wanting to be treated like the saint who sacrifices for everyone. She had all the help in the world when you were kids, and now she's acting as if you guys asking for help is entitlement, and it's not. It's a basic thing. You're not asking her to take weekends, school breaks, etc. You've asked for basic help that any normal parent would be willing to provide. I see other people's point by saying she's not required to babysit her grandkids, but if she was a decent person, she would. Probably an unpopular opinion, but that's how I see it. We want to go on about how it takes a village, etc., but as soon as grandma doesn't want to babysit, it's not her job. Plus, the shaming doesn't even seem to be about her not watching her grandkids. It was based off her not watching her own kids, which is valid. Micromanager forced to step down after mismanaging a new retail service. Relevant background info first. Several years ago, I was working at one of the big hardware stores in my area. It's a household name and had some upward mobility with decent pay for the area. I never really found a niche there after my first year and a half. I learned quickly though, so they kinda made me a Swiss Army employee. I could work hardware, plumbing, mix paint, make keys, prepare contracts for installs, and knew all of the features and flaws of the appliance models we sold. I was happy to do this because I was building a reputation as someone who could do everything. 2 years in, a new program was implemented that I was uniquely qualified to assist with. They created a new position for me. It was marketed as an all-in-one renovation remodel service for interiors. I was to assist the designer with product selection, product information, contracts, and local marketing for this service. Everyone involved was super excited about it. Note, I was still only making $10 an hour in 2015 for this. The problem was that because this was brand new, no one knew how it should work. The designer basically had to figure it out for herself while I tried to catch her up with all of the store and product knowledge I had accumulated during my unique experience with the company. Issues with the program. 1. It was way too expensive. 2. Product to be used had to come from one of our stores, which was limiting. 3. No one knew about it. It was a rocky start. Coworkers would call me over to talk to customers if they mentioned working on a big project, but that's all we had. No completed jobs to reference or anything provided by corporate to get us running. We made our own stuff. I put together a video advertising the service and got the nod from management to use company card to purchase a TV and media player to roll the video on repeat. We built vignettes in the store to showcase our design ability. I had been picking up a lot from the designer, so it ended up being a partnership in effect. The micromanager. Enter Devin, the assistant manager. He had actually been involved in the project from the beginning and had been pretty supportive and brought good energy at first. But I think he got fed up with issues that we couldn't control. Sloppy contractors refusing to fix things that they messed up. Slow design process as customers worked out what they wanted and people just backing out after taking a bunch of our time when they saw the price. We were, on average, charging $3,000 more for a small bathroom remodel on labor alone. Consulting and design fees were also worked into the final cost. The product was discounted to basically being tax-free, but as I mentioned, options were limited to products the company sold. It was just too expensive to make many sales on the poor side of town, where almost everyone knows some kind of contractor or tradesman with connections. It wasn't a good market for this program, but we did manage to start hitting and exceeding our numbers. Number 7 in the region for the brand new program was not bad. And just when we finally started getting some business and a rhythm around 8 months in, Devin decided that it was not working fast enough for him. Obviously, the designer was to blame since he had no authority over the contractors or setting prices. She didn't know what she was doing, and he was going to make some changes. He honestly didn't do much besides hover, bring bad energy, and make terrible suggestions. He didn't understand the scope of what we had to do to get a customer out the door and happy. He forced us to cut corners and get the sale as quickly as possible without concern for liability, for basically destroying a room in someone's home to remake it, or what was realistic in terms of timelines. Customers felt rushed and got nervous. They backed out. We came to a standstill. We would only have 2 or 3 designs in progress at a time, but suddenly, after working our butts off building the program, we had no customers for the first time in 6 months. Obviously, Devin was not subjecting us to his authority hard enough. So he went harder and fired the designer. I lost my patience. Justice or injustice, I don't know. I'm a chill dude, but I had been working my butt off for this company, making peanuts on the promise that I was working towards something. I endured working for the incompetent managers that got their positions because they started working there at 18 and made it their life. The toxic alpha male, I will lead, you will follow BS was too much, so I started bullying him back, making fun of him in a teasing way where he couldn't really react without looking bad or losing control. I did that for a while, and he left me alone to run the program in the interim since I was the only option. The designer and I had become friends though, so I was still mad about how it went down. I wasn't finished yet, but I didn't know what to do. Eventually, they got another designer, and Devin had me moved back to what I had been doing before. Passed over for several promotions that I was more than qualified for. The market had been flooded with longtime employees that were being moved around. Bad luck, but I was done with the place. One day I got an email with an anonymous review your manager survey. The store computers were set up with an always-on and logged-in user profile, so I wrote down the link and verified with a coworker that they weren't unique. In every department I visited that day, I wrote a review for Devin. All different ratings, but I made the good ones so that they sounded bad, but as if I didn't know it was bad. I did that maybe 10 times. It wasn't character assassination or anything, just opinion-based stuff with some vague examples so no one could figure out it was me. I didn't lie either. I just said what people don't usually say out loud. He would barely look at anyone after that. A couple of weeks later, he resigned his position as assistant manager and took an exterior design position at the other end of the store, as far away from the departments he had been over before. Basically, the same thing as what we had done with interiors, but he was in the designer's shoes. I left a couple of months later to work tech support for DHS, but while I was still in training for that, my friends from the store told me that he had gotten fired. Maybe he learned something. He should have at least learned how my designer friend felt. They were both fired on Christmas. My stepbrother stole my investment car and crashed it. A few years ago, I got a nice bonus in a major sales year, and I made a really smart investment decision with it. I'm a big car guy. During a dip in the exotic car market, I was presented with an insane private market deal on an extremely rare manual transmission supercar. Original owner was a friend in a car club who passed. His kids handled the sale. I had just enough cash available for a down payment to buy it as an investment. Not ready to disclose the model just yet. Fellow gearheads can probably guess. But it's one of less than 200 remaining in North America, low mileage, all original without a hint of damage. I honestly rarely even drive the thing myself. It's just too valuable at this point, worth more than triple what I paid for it. Let's just say it's easily valued north of $600,000 right now. Or at least it was. Last weekend, I was out of town. My idiot 17-year-old stepbrother had his prom and decided to borrow it for the evening. I don't think he was even drinking. The car is just not easy to drive. It doesn't have any safety features, and it's tough to handle for anyone less than an experienced driver. He ended up misshifting, spinning it out, and causing a fair amount of damage. It was still drivable afterwards, and he brought it back to my garage, so no accident report was filed. But my cameras caught him leaving with it in pristine condition and returning it wrecked. I'm livid. My dad and stepmom are very apologetic, but aren't really taking much responsibility for what he did. Originally, they wanted me to try and claim it against my insurance, which I have no intention of doing. They eventually came back and offered to try and pay for the repair. I think it can be fixed for under $60,000, but finding parts for the thing isn't a cakewalk. My problem is the loss of value. I had a broker that specializes in these cars go over it with me, and he thinks, even expertly repaired, with the wreck and non-original parts, it will have lost at least $200,000 to $300,000 in value after being restored. My broker is going to provide me with a written loss of value estimate this week. I'm leaning towards demanding that amount from my family in restitution, or I can press charges for the theft of the vehicle. As far as I can tell, those are my two options to seek the full value of the investment. Just getting it repaired would mean taking a $250,000 loss when all is said and done. I know this would be a hardship, but my dad and stepfam won't exactly go hungry. They own a couple rental properties that they could sell to come up with the cash. But in discussing this with my sister, she thinks I'm being unreasonable to burden the family with such a major expense, and I should just let them pay to fix the car. I don't see how I can even remotely cover the loss I'm taking without pushing this ultimatum their way. Would I be the jerk? Edit, to clarify because I keep getting asked. The car was on my own property in my garage and was very well secured, but my dad had a key to the house that my stepbrother used to get in. He knew the alarm code and where the keys were hidden because he's family. Also, this probably wasn't too clear in the original post, but I'm not exactly wealthy or anything. At least not wealthy enough to afford my own supercar under normal circumstances. This was very much an investment towards retirement for me, hence why I almost never drive it. Not the jerk. I'd honestly have pressed charges already. He stole your car and caused massive damage, let alone the safety factor. He could have gotten himself and or others severely hurt operating a car that he had no business being behind the wheel of. Frankly, he's lucky that that was the worst that happened, and their apologies don't cover all that. You're being generous giving them different options to work it out that don't include charges. Also, what are they doing about him? Because if they haven't properly grounded him from literally everything, taken away his phone and any gaming devices, and told him he's getting a job to pay this back, it's not enough. Am I the jerk for not eating food my girlfriend's parents made at family dinner? My girlfriend of 4 years has a different cultural background than mine. Her parents are not from America, and family and meals are very important to them. I grew up in America, and while we had holiday dinners and maybe a Sunday dinner every couple of weeks, for the most part, mom or dad made something, and then we ate it where and when we wanted to. I eat dinner with my girlfriend's parents every week, and I love it. It's important to her, and I have no problem with different cuisines. It's all delicious food. However, I do not eat a lot. Growing up, I was very overweight, and I saw a nutritionist, stuck to a calorie deficit, and worked on my portions, and I've been at a healthy weight ever since. My relationship with food has changed, and I no longer have the desire to tear through 2 double quarter pounders anymore. My girlfriend's parents seem to get offended that I get small portions of things and don't fill my plate up a second time. They will make maybe 5 to 6 different food options, and I'll get a little bit of everything because I want to taste it all. At some point, every time I'm there, they ask me if I didn't like the food. They mention the small portions and how I never go back for more. I just honestly tell them that I don't overeat. They've never made a scene about it to me, but I guess they've been discussing it with my girlfriend while I'm not there. A couple of days ago, my girlfriend told me that her parents feel offended over how little I eat, which, a little, is a 100% full plate with a bit of everything made. And some days I eat less, and some days I eat more. It really depends. If I skipped breakfast, had a light lunch, I might fill up more for dinner. But if, for example, I got a decent breakfast, work catered sandwiches that day, I'm going to have a normal, small-sized dinner. My general goal is to have equal-sized meals each time, but with a busy work life, that is not always possible. So some days I didn't have any food until family dinner, and I'm eating more than usual. My girlfriend asked me if it was possible that I could eat a bit more just for them 1 day a week. She didn't push or demand, just asked if it was possible. I told her that I don't want to ruin my mended relationship with food. I don't understand why the parents are so offended. I always pack up Tupperware and eat it throughout the week because it's delicious food. I don't want to disrespect her parents though. Edit. Another odd thing I want to add. They will make comments about my girlfriend, who's in great shape, that she is putting on weight sometimes, but also pressure her to fill her plate twice. I don't get it. Edit. I know you mean well, but the idea of pretending to eat or getting a small plate and going back to get another small plate is just silly to me. I get that all cultures are different. I eat all the different food they serve and follow their religious codes when I'm in their house. But the idea of taking someone's autonomy and having to fake like I'm getting more seconds is just so ridiculous to me. Also, didn't know so many people would relate to being force-fed and then scolded for being overweight. As a Midwest American, I've never experienced this. It sounds so toxic that so many people can relate to that and the issues that I've struggled with myself. If my parents behaved in that way, it would have really messed up my relationship with food even more. But I guess nothing says showing love to someone like fattening them up and then scolding them for the natural weight gain that you caused. Not the jerk. My extended family is this way culturally, and it is considered offensive to them if you reject food or don't gorge yourself. But culture can't be prioritized over your boundaries and well-being. This is a good compatibility test for you and your girlfriend. It will be uncomfortable for her, but I hope she chooses to back you up. Am I the jerk for leaving my best friend and his friends stranded in an unfamiliar city? So for background, my best friend has gotten into going to these Spartan races. He and a small group of his friends have started going to local ones, but recently heard about one in another state they wanted to go to and compete in, but they didn't have anywhere to stay. So they asked me if they could borrow my truck and trailer. I have a tow-behind camper for the weekend. I said no, I wasn't comfortable with them taking my truck and trailer, but that I'd drive them and the camper to their event. We made the 3-hour trip and set everything up in the area where the race was taking place the next day. I have a habit of leaving my keys on a hook next to the door to my bedroom in my camper. Remember this. Come nightfall, I went to take a phone call outside and ended up wandering around the grounds for over an hour. When I got back to the camper, the door was locked, and I was told by my best friend's older friend through the window that there wasn't enough room for me in my trailer. So I reached for my keys to unlock the door, but realized I had left them inside the camper on the hook in my room. So I called my best friend from outside, and all I was told was, "Sorry bro, nothing I can do." So I ended up sleeping in my truck that night, which I had fortunately left unlocked by accident. Their race began at 8 a.m., and at 7 they came meandering out of the trailer and woke me up. No apology, by the way. So while they were in their race, I hooked my truck back up to the trailer, closed and locked everything, and waited until just after they finished and had started walking back to the trailer. Think really wide open field. When I saw them coming, I started the truck and drove off the property with them chasing behind. I made the 3-hour trip back home, declining call after call. When I finally got home, I finally took my best friend's call. He started yelling at me saying, "Why would you do this? We have no way home now." I just said, "Sorry, you shouldn't have made me sleep in my truck after I did you this favor." He told me that there were better ways to handle this than by leaving them in an unfamiliar city with no way home. I think he ended up calling his dad to come and get them. Is he right? Was there a better way to handle this? I felt justified until he said that. I am kind of doubting my decision now. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. They're Spartan warriors, right? They should run home. Not the jerk. Was there a more adult way to deal with this? Definitely. Did they deserve to be treated like adults after the disrespectful and childish stunt they pulled? No. Forget those guys. They got what they deserved. Was there a more adult way to handle this? I'm legitimately torn on this. I'm not convinced there's a way OP could have handled this which would have taught these jerks a lesson or been better all told. Anything less than this would have likely led to these jerks feeling they got away with their behavior and wouldn't think twice about doing it again, if not to OP, then to someone else. Adults need adult consequences, and I'm not certain anything less than this would have been a true consequence for them. Not the jerk. Who tells someone they can't sleep in their own camper? He's not your best friend. I'm just really confused what these people's thought process was. They really thought they'd lock you out of your own camper and you'd smile and drive them all home? Was it harsh? Yes. Did they deserve it? Also yes. They're grown. They can find their own way home. Not the jerk. OP. I've been trying to practice the mental gymnastics it takes to come to that conclusion as well in my own head, and I just can't do it. Karen is blaming me for what her dog ate. Now he might not survive. I was hosting a big garden party this weekend. I invited my entire friend group plus their partners. One of my friends takes her dog everywhere. I told her no pets were allowed. Although it was a garden party, we were in and out of my home, and I have 4 cats. My cats do not like dogs, and neither do I. Anyway, my friend showed up with her dog. I told her that her dog was not welcome in my home or my garden, and I asked her to please take her dog home or elsewhere. I thought my friend left. I went inside to sort out some things. I went into my garden about 15 minutes later, and my friend was standing there in my garden talking to our friends. She doesn't live that close, so I was confused. I went to ask her how she got back so quickly, and she told me she was just popping in and that she was going to go home since her dog isn't welcome. I asked her where her dog was, and she shrugged her shoulders and said that he was around. I went looking and found him at the bottom of the garden eating my crops and making a mess. I was angry and told my friend to get her dog off my property. A few hours later, she called me asking what my dog ate. I had no clue. My gardener plants and attends everything. I told her I didn't know, but I told her that he had made a huge mess, dug things up, and clearly eaten things. She shouted at me that her dog is sick and that I need to find out what the dog ate. I told her I had no idea, but I'd text the gardener to ask, but it was really her problem. I did send the text, but my gardener didn't answer. My friend called again, wanting to know what her dog ate, but I told her I still didn't know. She told me I obviously don't care if her dog makes it and called me a jerk. I still don't know what her dog ate, but apparently he's very sick and he might not make it. I feel bad, but I told her not to bring the dog onto my property, so I don't feel responsible like she says I am. Am I the jerk? ETA. After being unable to reach my gardener, I took pictures of everything the dog dug up, which was a lot, and sent them to my friend. But I have no idea what he ate and what it dug up. And for all I know, whatever he ate isn't even pictured because the whole section is a mess. This wasn't good enough for her. She wants me to tell her exactly what he ate, and I just don't know and don't want to spend hours trying to figure it out when I don't even know if it can be figured out. Edit 2. My cats are house cats. They don't go in my garden and aren't at risk of getting sick from whatever my gardener is growing. My garden is huge, and what's growing changes often, so no, I don't keep track of what's planted. Update. I blocked my ex-friend after dozens of nasty calls and texts, but I got an update from a mutual friend. The dog is at the dog hospital and he's pretty sick, but is expected to make a full recovery. I managed to contact my gardener eventually. It looks like the dog ate some potatoes or something. A lot was destroyed, so even my gardener isn't 100% sure what was eaten, but he thinks maybe the pesticides were the problem. All info from Gardner was passed to my ex-friend. Ex-friend has seen this post and is very angry about it. Everyone say hi to Suzanne. Not the jerk. You asked her nicely not to bring the dog, but yet she did. You asked her to leave, but yet she didn't. She wasn't even watching her dog. If her dog doesn't make it, it's on her. I love dogs. Yes, I'm one of those people who likes animals more than other people. People suck. I do not like OP's friend. She's not a dog person. A dog person would pay attention to what their dog was doing, would never take their dog into a situation where they're not wanted, and would never let their dog off leash in a large garden where they don't know what plants are around and what could be toxic to their dog. Not the jerk, OP. I know that you'll feel bad if the dog doesn't make it. It just did what dogs do. Your friend is the problem. I mostly just feel sorry for the dog having such an irresponsible parent. Your yard wasn't dog safe, but you made it pretty clear the dog was not welcome. Your friend ignored that, and it's her dog who almost paid the price for it. Super sad, and you're not the jerk. Your friend is a super duper mega jerk though. She's saying you don't care if her dog makes it, but she ought to look at herself. Poor doggo deserves better. Am I the jerk for splashing women with water at the pool? I'm female 31, and swimming is my hobby and how I keep healthy. My favorite swimming pool is a local university pool. As a graduate, I have access, but they also have community hours for when people from the town can pay and swim. It doesn't do lane swimming, but typically everyone knows how to stay away from those doing laps. I was doing laps at the far end with the pool wall on my side, so I couldn't move if I wanted to. I was mid-session when two women my age jumped right in front of me and just stood there by the wall on the shallow end. I couldn't stop in time and pushed from the wall between them, forcing them to move aside. I was being more careful next lap, but they just kept standing there. There was plenty of space on the other side of the pool where they could stand and chat without bothering anyone, but they chose to stand right in front of me. So I continued swimming, pushing from the wall. If they refused to move, I just turned in water, making sure to make a big splash. I took a break to drink some water, and one of them started screaming at me about how I got her hair all wet. I told her it's her fault, and I continued swimming. She waited for me in the changing rooms and went on about how I was inconsiderate and I ruined her hair. I told her to buzz off. She started going off at me and started screaming, calling me a jerk. I grabbed my stuff and went to one of the cubicles to have a shower and change. When I was leaving, they were talking to the manager. One of them was crying about their hair. I told my sister and she thinks I was the jerk, but I didn't think so before. Now, with my sister agreeing, I worry that I might have been. Am I the jerk? Edit. Just to add, I was the only person there when they came in. They had the whole pool to stand. They chose purposefully to stand in front of me without swimming at all. Edit 2. The pool is 25 meters long and you swim lengthwise from deep to shallow end and back. They had the whole shallow end wall free except for the meter or so I used for kicking off. I didn't take the whole shallow end. Who would do laps there except for kids? Edit 3. While there's no designated lap lanes, lap swimming isn't forbidden. Typically, during open swim, 75% of swimmers do lap swimming. They weren't older ladies. They were about my age, early 30s. I didn't leave the pool to grab water. I had water on the edge along with my other stuff for drills or my earplugs, etc. This is perfectly normal and acceptable. If you go to a pool but don't want to get your hair wet, you wear a hair cap. Simple as that. You already were there. Those two had all the pool space but chose to stand there and get mad at you for something they could have avoided in more than one way. Not the jerk. Oh no, my hair got wet. Ma'am, this is a pool. OP, out of curiosity, did you ask if they would mind moving elsewhere so that you wouldn't accidentally splash them? I mean, not the jerk, and anyone with a lick of common sense and not insanely entitled would move on their own, but you didn't mention that you spoke to the women. Still, it's ridiculous that they're upset that they got wet in a pool, especially as you were there first and they clearly saw you doing laps. How entitled were those ladies to plop themselves in front of a person doing laps and then get angry that they got splashed? And tell your sister that you are very upset that she sided with these ladies who purposefully blocked your laps when you were there first. Am I the jerk for leaving my brother's kids and hanging out with my boyfriend? My brother Derek is 27 and has been married to his wife, Sophie, not real names, who's 26 for 2 years, and they have 2 kids, a 4-year-old son and a 6-month-old daughter. They never really had much money, and recently they had to move back in with my parents. I also live with my parents and just finished my first year at community college. I'm 19, female. When my siblings moved out, my parents gave me the master bedroom. But when Derek and Sophie moved in, I got moved to a smaller room and they got the master bedroom. None of it bothered me because they're going through a hard time, but Sophie gave me a schedule and said that this is the kids' daily routine. I asked what she meant, and she said it's for when she's at work. I told Sophie that I'm not going to watch her kids, and I never said I was. My mom told me that she meant to talk to me about it, and basically, because class is over and my parents work full-time, I should watch their kids. If Derek and Sophie asked me, I would have said no, because I work part-time in the evening and I'm really stressed, but they could have at least asked instead of just assuming I would. Yesterday, Sophie thanked me for watching her kids and left before I could say anything, so I called my best friend and told her that my brother would pay her when he got home. I spent the entire day with my boyfriend. I got a call from my brother yelling at me, saying that I put his kids in danger. My friend is getting an early childhood education degree. She does babysitting regularly and she's great with kids. When I got home, Derek and Sophie yelled at me, saying that they couldn't afford a babysitter and that I'm selfish, but I knew that if I just watched the kids, they would use me like that all summer. My dad agrees with me, but my mom says I could have just watched them. I would like everyone to know that my friend was paid. I would never ever let her go unpaid, but my brother did not have the extra money to spare. My friend also knew a little before I left the kids with her, and now she knows everything. My mother's really upset with me for going away after my sister's mental breakdown. My brother made a bunch of investments, and he's in a lot of debt. I told Sophie that she could put them in daycare, but she didn't want to do it because it would corrupt them. Also, my friend charged him $35. It would have been more, but because I'm her friend, she gave them a discount. Edit. I did this post in a rush while I was mad. I'm also new to Reddit. I wanted to get the lingo right. I was going to fix the grammar, but now I'm not, because if that's what you're worried about, you missed the point. Go get the list of kids' routines and put the cost on each of them. Then give it back to them. Since you guys assume I work for you, here's my rates. Not the jerk. You are absolutely right. They're trying to push you into free childcare duty all summer for kids who aren't even yours. I would not agree, and I would let them know that you will be out of the house all day every day, so they'd better come up with a paid babysitter to watch their kids or put them in actual childcare. And then make good on your promise and go to the library or a coffee shop every day for at least a week or two until they find someone to watch their kids. Not your responsibility. Woman wasn't expecting she would be having a riding buddy. This malicious compliance takes place in the Czech Republic, where many people are often really grumpy. My girlfriend, who's 30, and I, male 21, were waiting for a bus ride to go to her hometown for a wedding. As you'd expect, we had 3 bags, and they were packed to the point where zipping the bag required you to sit on it, especially her bag, as she was one of the bridesmaids. Before we boarded the bus, we had to wait for the passengers who had paid beforehand to reserve seats. My girlfriend and I had not prepaid. We were in somewhat of a line, which allowed for the passengers who reserved seats to pass. The line for unreserved seat passengers was essentially respected, except by this woman. She arrived when the line was somewhat being formed and decided to stand next to us. As our turn to board was coming up, she quickly scooted in front of my girlfriend and looked forward as if she was completely oblivious to the fact she had done something that was traditionally frowned upon. My girlfriend was obviously quite annoyed and started saying out loud, in English, much of the older generation in this country doesn't understand English very well. Well, that's a jerk thing to do. Can you believe this woman? I was calm as I had counted how many people had already boarded the bus, and there was still a good chance we'd find seats together in the unreserved rows, so I didn't think it called for any type of confrontation. Still, I had calmly responded, "Let's be honest, we can't be surprised when jerks do jerk things." Looking back, it was unnecessary, but I also was tired, and the bags were heavy, so I was a bit impatient. We finally sit down, and my girlfriend chose to sit in the 2 free seats behind her. I would have chosen the seats in front of her and then just slowly reclined my seat back every few minutes so that she wouldn't have noticed my little act of revenge, but this ended up being better. It's important to note that the row this woman chose was the last row with an overhead shelf for bags. The shelf was a little longer in the front, so every person essentially had space for their bag if they moved their bags a little towards the front of the bus. It's also important to mention that the shelf was essentially empty, and I could have placed another 5 bags next to ours if I wanted to. We finally hit the road, and the woman is talking on the phone, loudly I might add, saying how she's going to visit her grandson who is so sweet, but that he plays metal music in his room and she can't stand the sound of it. After she finishes the call, she takes off her windbreaker and plans to put it above her seat. She finally sees that my bag is directly above her seat, And instead of moving her jacket 35 centimeters to the right on the shelf or setting her jacket on the empty seat beside her, she decides to confront me in an entitled tone. "Excuse me, young man, but I can't put my jacket anywhere because your fat bag is in the way." I was bored, so decided to act like this was a tragedy. "Oh no, what will we do? Maybe if we put our heads together we can find a solution." Her face turned from shock to old grandma rage. She yelled back, "Well, don't you know that the shelf space is for the person directly below the seat?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I truly didn't know that was like an unspoken rule. So the space above your seat is only for you and the potential passenger next to you?" I say, truly acting sorry and embarrassed. Yes it is. So please move it to your spot," she says, acting victorious. Of course, right away. I quickly get up and take my girlfriend's bag off the shelf and place it on the seat where I was sitting next to her. I keep my bag in the exact same spot and plop myself right next to the old woman with a grin. The look on her face was absolutely priceless as she was trying to understand what just happened. I smile at her, take my headphones out, and play some death metal way too loud so that she can definitely hear it. I might have hearing loss. I don't even like death metal, but it was definitely worth it knowing she was annoyed the whole time. My girlfriend was sad I didn't sit next to her for the bus ride, but she ultimately agreed it was the best way to get back at her. P.S. This is my first post on Reddit, so I hope I chose the right place to put it. Am I the jerk? I didn't include a group member's name in a group project. I had a very difficult final assignment which happened to be group work. We didn't get to pick our groups and it was all random. This assignment was worth 24% of our grades and it mattered a lot. When it was announced that it would be group work, one of my classmates, let's call her Anne, had a very happy reaction to it, which is fine, but her reasoning was that group work assignments make her relieved because she can always be sure her work is correct at the end with no worries. This made me mad since I've worked with this girl on 2 other projects that same semester and her work was absolutely horrible. She always finished her portion minutes before submission time and I always had to change it, a lot, because it was often incorrect. I even took many of her parts because I simply couldn't trust her work, so her saying that she's relieved that this assignment was a group project made me so mad. Unfortunately, once the teams were announced, I ended up with her in a group again. I think because our names are close alphabetically. But I was fine with it since the other 2 were smart students. When time came for us to start working on this assignment, I noticed that she always responded to the group chat and I was happy with her contribution until the day we worked on it came. I sent a Zoom link for all of the group members to join so we could start and finish our assignment that day. It was short, but really complicated assignment. But this time, Anne didn't respond to anything despite the fact that she agreed the day prior to the timing we picked. She didn't join any second of the meeting. When we finished the assignment, which took us around 5 to 6 consecutive hours, we created a cover page and included all of our names, including Anne's. But after we left the meeting, I removed Anne's name and waited until everyone in my group submitted it to completely delete the document. Around the same time, Anne messaged the group chat saying she was feeling a bit sick and went to the hospital. My other team members told her it's fine and assumed she still had access to the document. But when she tried looking for it, she couldn't find it and asked me to send her a copy, which I did, but it wasn't related to our assignment at all. Of course she wouldn't know since she didn't contribute to it. The grades were released and Anne failed that course because of that assignment. My other group members are calling me a jerk for removing her name secretly and lying about the document, and that she was sick and had an excuse, but I don't believe an ounce of it. Edit. As I've said in the comments, I should have been the bigger person and made everything work without sabotaging. Actually, people were surprised with what I did since it really isn't like me, and I'm usually a shy people pleaser. Even my friends that I told this story to said that. But I've been taken advantage of many times, especially academically, and I always gave in and I took on all of the weight myself. I'm really bad at standing up for myself since I rarely do it, and the way I handled this situation proves it. Since I rarely do it, I went hard this time and didn't notice the extent until I read everyone's judgment on here. I genuinely thought I wasn't the jerk, but now I'm viewing it in a completely different way. I hope both Anne and I learned from this situation and the mistakes that we made, and I think we were both being jerks here and we both handled the situation incorrectly. Of course you're the jerk. You should have at least checked with the other group members. Instead, you played God. You should have discussed this problem with the instructor when the groups were announced. There may have been a solution that didn't include underhanded, lying submissions. You have ruined your reputation with everyone that knows. Who will want to work with you going forward? You're the jerk. Secretly sabotaging a group member. Nasty. The adult approach would have been raising it directly with that particular group member and then the rest of the team. It's meant to be teamwork for a reason, so that each can learn to effectively produce within a team dynamic. You acted unilaterally. You failed the assignment. Bruh, what's wrong with you people on Reddit? You really think someone deserves to get a good grade when they didn't even contribute to the project? Something tells me y'all were the same ones who liked group projects because you thought you didn't have to do anything. Calm down now, Karen. You're talking way too much common sense. Do you know how many people are going to get mad at you? I don't care anymore, Reddit boy. You can't live your life trying to be liked by people who don't have common sense. Well, yeah, but what if we lose subscribers? Then maybe we'll gain some who have common sense. Subscribe now if you're not an idiot. Yowza kanowza. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law that she's not allowed to meet our kids anymore? My husband and I have 2 kids, 5, daughter, and son, who's 8. After a very horrible birth with my elder one, I decided I'm not ready to go through that again, but we still wanted more kids. So 5 years ago, we adopted. My mother-in-law cares for our family, but she makes her preference for Malcolm more than clear. To begin, she was absolutely furious hearing that I would not be having another biological kid and was instantly disapproving. After hearing we were going to adopt, her anger turned into rage. She screamed about how we didn't know the parentage of the kid and might end up bringing in someone who would disgrace her lineage. My husband was able to calm her down. Thankfully, when she saw little Julia, it seemed like this was all behind us. Yesterday, mother-in-law decided to visit us. My husband was away on a trip, so she was just helping around. I was absolutely exhausted, so I asked if I could go down for a nap, and she was more than green. After a few hours, she woke me up and informed me that she was about to leave. All was good. I was cooking in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I hear a loud bang, preceded with a crying Julia. When I rushed into the hall, I see Malcolm towering over me. "You're not real. All of this is mine," he started screaming, which was incredibly confusing to say the least. After calming them down, I asked Malcolm what he meant. He then revealed that Grandma Muriel had told him that he was Mommy and Daddy's real son. This made me incredibly mad. I asked him what else Grandma had told him, and he told me all about how she had been telling him that Julia wasn't really his sister, and how he should get extra attention for being extra special, how he's always going to be Grandma's favorite grandson, and so much more. Blinded with rage, I blocked Muriel on everything after sending her a text detailing her actions and how this was absolutely unacceptable, and how she'd never be seeing her grandkids until they're much older and understand the situation so they wouldn't be swayed by her words. I probably overreacted, to be fair. She is quite an old lady. After he returned, we got into quite the argument. To say the least, my husband disagreed. He adores his mother and told me that stopping her from seeing the kids is inhumane. She's simply old-fashioned, and she didn't know her words would bring this big of an impact or some such. We will be having a civil discussion about this later. Edit. I'm sorry I didn't clarify this earlier, but both Julia and Malcolm know that she's adopted. I've had this conversation with both the kids, although I've had it separately with both of them. I think I might have to have this conversation once again and make sure Julia knows that it doesn't matter whether she's adopted or not. You have a serious problem in your family, and you need to get into counseling to fix it immediately before he ruins your daughter's life. And you need to prepare for the fact that your husband may never really love or protect her, and you will have to be the one who protects her from both of them, not the jerk. You can either support me in my decision to hold your mother accountable for her actions, or I will file for divorce. This is a hard deal breaker for me. What your mother did was unforgivable in my eyes, and I will not allow our kids to be raised to think they aren't really brother and sister because your ignorant mother thinks our adopted kid is less than our biological one. So you need to pack a bag and go stay somewhere else, because I can't even look at you right now. I am beyond disappointed that you don't see anything wrong with what your mother said or did, or the fact that your son acted like this because of it. Pull your head out of your backside, or I will do what I have to do to protect our kids, even if that means ending this marriage. Not the jerk. OP. I think this might just be where this goes. If my husband doesn't agree to cut her off of our kids, I'm done. Their mental health, happiness, and relationship with each other is more important than a husband who won't see that he's actively hurting by neglecting them, more so also ruining her perception in front of his son. Thank you for this comment. Also, it doesn't really matter whether or not your mother-in-law understands what kind of impact this could have on Julia. Her intentions honestly don't mean anything, Because no matter the intention, the outcome will be the same for Julia, believing that she's a second-class citizen. But hey, good to know that your husband apparently cares more about his mother's feelings than your daughter's, who is 5 and could develop serious problems from this. It honestly sounds like he expects to just have Julia suck it up or understand that grandma is old and doesn't mean it. But why is expecting so much emotional maturity from a literal 5-year-old while expecting none from his own mother? Am I the jerk? My husband says I was being ungrateful for his Mother's Day efforts. I say that there almost was no effort. My husband is my kids, who's 11, daughter, and 14, son, stepdad. He's been with me since they were 4 and 7. Mother's Day comes. I get up first, make coffee. Husband gets up an hour later, and little by little the kids get up. By 10 a.m., I've gone to the gym and we're doing yard work. 14-year-old took his headphones off long enough to ask me when I was running him to a friend's graduation party later. At one point, about 9, I had mentioned to him the kids hadn't even acknowledged Mother's Day at all. He went into 11-year-old's room to tell her to make me a card, apparently. He did get me flowers on Friday and chocolate-covered strawberries and a mini cake. I would like to point out now that I'm diabetic. And not only that, he has told me that my lack of care for my diabetes, I hadn't been maintaining my sugar at all, trying to get on track. My diet and my weight have been making him feel completely disrespected because it's important his partner care for herself. By 10 a.m., I was putting yard waste in a bag and he asked me what was wrong. I told him that no one had acknowledged the day at all. His exact words were, "Did you seriously need me to actually say the words?" And it was said in a very angry tone. Then he had gone on about how my daughter was drawing a card as we speak and how he tried to make the day special when he got me flowers and the stuff I wasn't supposed to eat on Friday. Later, I sent the 14-year-old to walk to Walgreens to get a card for his friend's graduation party and a Mother's Day card for his grandmother. He does not bother to get me a card. The day before, husband took 11-year-old to the mall for something to do during a power outage, didn't get me a card, etc. Later, I made a comment at dinner with my mom and brother. "Look, my brother got me a card," and he was upset and made a quiet reply. "You seriously needed me to get you a card?" He says I'm being ungrateful for their earlier efforts. I see it as 0 effort. I have also told him point blank, very plainly, that there are 4 days a year that yes, I expect a card. Valentine's Day, anniversary, Mother's Day, and my birthday. We also had this exact fight last year. Am I really being unreasonable and ungrateful? Am I the jerk? You're ungrateful for what? Getting flowers 2 days before Mother's Day? No simple acknowledgement to wish you a happy Mother's Day? Not getting you a card when you previously told him you expected one? Then his passive-aggressive questions? "You seriously need me to?" Nope, not the jerk, your husband is. Not the jerk. Put exactly the same amount of effort and thought into Father's Day. Hand him a dandelion on Friday before, because nothing else says thinking of you like a single dandelion. Give him something to eat that isn't perfect for his health or his lifestyle. Mention that he needs to watch what he eats because it's part of his responsibility as a partner to take care of himself and not disrespect you by letting himself go physically. And then the day of, feel free to ignore the whole thing completely. People like this get mad because they put 0 effort in and then get upset when they're lazy. 0 effort day gets called out. Neighbors' kids are demanding to use our pool. Should we just let them? I, 37 male, moved into a small neighborhood with my fiancé, who's 36. The neighborhood is full of kids around the ages of 9 and 10. We found out that my fiancé is expecting, and we both decided on wanting a pool. I had an above-ground pool put in last year, and the neighborhood kids were very happy. I told them no dogs were allowed in the pool, as the lining was fragile and it could break. This year, I opened the pool, and the kids used it while we were away. When we got back, I noticed the water level was low, and I tried to refill it. I saw a good-sized tear on the side and got it fixed. The kids came over the next day with a Labrador Retriever wanting to use the pool, and I told them that the pool was closed. I came home and saw a few of the neighbors arguing with my fiancé. I walked over and everyone starts talking about how I hurt their kids' feelings by not allowing them to use the pool. I explained what happened and why I had to close the pool. A few of them started laughing and demand that I reopen the pool. My fiancé thinks that I should open the pool and apologize to the families. Not the jerk. Who are the neighbors to demand that you open the pool? And I surely hope you strictly enforce the no dog rule. I'm also assuming you require at least one adult to be present at the pool at all times. Finally preparing to take my entitled mother-in-law to court, It's time for some serious payback. My partner, 30 male, and I, 25 female, started our relationship 5 years ago. When we met, I found out he shared a mortgage with mother-in-law because when her ex left, she couldn't hold the mortgage. Boyfriend had a good job and decided to step up. We hadn't met yet, and he was single and living there, so he didn't think much of it, and that was his mom, and he's a wonderful son and person. I moved in with him after 7 months. I know that's pretty soon, but there were some unforeseen events that led me to just stay, and that's when I started to realize there was something really off about mother-in-law. To give a visual of the house, it's a 2-story house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms upstairs, and 1 bedroom and bathroom downstairs. When I moved in, we lived in his bedroom upstairs. All downstairs was absolutely filled to the ceiling with junk and boxes, almost like an episode of Hoarders. Completely unlivable. There's also a laundry room down there, and that's where we all did our laundry. We were finally able to convince mother-in-law to get her crap out of the way so we could move downstairs and have a bit more privacy. There's a door leading into the living area of the downstairs, and she would use that to get to the laundry. We spent most of our time in the living area and got tired of her constantly coming through it, so I tried to talk and make a compromise. There were 2 other ways to get to the laundry room. One way is down the outside stairs and the laundry room door, and the other is through the garage and through the hall. I went and bought some curtains to set up on either side of the doors so she had her own special hallway. She kept coming through after agreeing to use the other ways. One day, we replaced the doorknob with a knob with a lock that locked from the inside. We had locked up and left the house for a few hours. When we got back, we found she had taken a butter knife and forced open the lock, something that could have easily been avoided. When we confronted her, she got on the floor and cried, and my boyfriend went over to comfort her. That's when I realized that she manipulates him. I only asked why she did that, and she broke down with crocodile tears. Eventually, I convinced boyfriend to get away, and we moved into an apartment in town. It was bliss. I think from there, he started to gain a lot more confidence and stopped talking to mother-in-law as much. This was all 4 years ago. After we moved out, mother-in-law decided to spend a bunch of money and renovate the downstairs and make the house into a duplex-type situation, with her living in the bottom. It's separate now, and she's invading no one's space. She charges a tenant $2,200 to live upstairs, which pays her almost paid-off mortgage and all of her bills. Boyfriend is still on the title and mortgage of the house. When he was there, he was paying everything, including her phone bill. Another thing to add, mother-in-law does not work. So fast forward to now. I'm 2 months pregnant with boyfriend's baby. We're starting a family, and boyfriend has asked to move into the upstairs so we can have a bigger home to raise our baby in. She said no. We asked her to take his name off. Nope. She refuses to let him live in the house. She won't buy him out. She won't take his name off because that would mean she can't keep the house. She cannot keep the house without boyfriend. Her reasoning is that she wants to save for her retirement and she needs the $4,000+ a month she makes from the tenant, alimony, she wasn't even married to the guy, disability from the government, and other under-the-table work, while we are currently grasping at straws. My boyfriend has finally realized that his mother doesn't give any hoots about him or his kid, and now we are going to take her to court. The house is worth almost $700,000. We're going to force a sale for half. Basically, she's proved time and time again that she's a selfish, greedy woman who takes advantage of her son. Her other son does not talk to her or see her, even on holidays. We understand why now. I'm honestly just still in shock at the fact that after everything he's done for her, she won't do the same. Also, she has a lot of money. Edit. I don't in any way think I'm entitled to any of this money. I just say we out of habit because we are just a team with things, I guess. Court wasn't my idea. I try to leave any of that stuff up to him because it isn't my house. I'm just in here to share this story. Don't let her handle the sale. She'll sell it low out of spite or make a deal for money under the table. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.